Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Last Call, where at least half the crew belongs in a museum. And tonight we're opening up the archives and dusting off some old relics. I am, of course, talking about the Indiana Jones franchise, from Raiders to Crystal Skull and everything in between. And to guide us through this archaeological dig is subject matter expert Michael French of RetroBlasting. I hear he knows a little bit about Indy. So top off your glasses and settle in. The Canarble Wagon rolls right after these messages. A couple of weeks ago, I said that if you bought me a drink, you could decide what my drink of the night would be. Then I decided that, as an added show of gratitude, you'd get a song in return. Now this week's drink comes to me from Connie Cleary, and it's a Tequila Sunrise. So you can probably guess the song. Thank you, Connie. Salud.
Welcome, welcome. Yes, definitely a Tequila Sunrise, at least my spin on it. And Connie, thank you so much. And here we go. It's another tequila sunrise, staring slowly across the sky. I say goodbye, and he was just a hired hand, working on the dreams he planned to try. The days go by. Every night when the sun goes down, just another lonely boy in town, and she's out running round. She wasn't just another woman, and I couldn't keep from coming on. It's been so long. Oh, and it's a hollow feeling when it comes down to dealing friends. It never ends. Take another shot of courage. Wonder why the right words never come. Oh, you just get numb. And it's a double tequila sunrise. This old world still looks the same. Another frame. Thanks again, Connie. That was a great suggestion. I super appreciate it. Let me not keep everyone waiting too long. It's been so long. Let me start with my beautiful, lovely sidekick, Agent Boomer. She did this to me last week with Big Al. So, how you doing, my friend? And what are you sipping on?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Just got a Coca-Cola. Need some caffeine to stay up.
Well, for you, that's high octane, my friend.
Funny.
Good. Yeah, and obviously you know exactly what I'm sipping on. No, I'm playing around.
It's tasty.
It is very tasty, and yeah, you see right over here, I got the 1800, and I guess you can't see it through my head, but the Cracovia is what I'm using instead of maraschino because,
Cool.
oh, and that grenadine, oh, those drunken cherry, not a maraschino. Yeah, I'm a purist when it comes to the booze, you know. And the recipe calls for it to be in a Collins glass. I don't do Collins glasses in this house. You might know why,
Yeah,
but I know Netter does. Speaking of Netter, how you doing, my lovely, and what you sipping on?
I'm doing great. I'm sort of sipping on a Kahlua and cream, but since Troy made it, it's way too strong.
So what she's basically saying, am I right?
Hey,
Is it good? That's what I'm asking.
I can handle it. And besides, I'm already home.
That's true. You don't have to drive. Agent Boomer needs to close out the show if we both get shit faced.
We'll see.
Oh, I didn't even make it 15 minutes in. I gotta be careful. I'm hoping to get monetized one day. I gotta start watching the swears.
I'll have to start watching the swears on Sunday when we talk about the Flash.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have some things to say. We want to keep it positive.
Sure.
Not guaranteeing anything, but we're going to try. You know, I try to be on my best behavior when I have a guest that I respect so much. Speaking of whom, let me bring him in right now. Michael French of RetroBlasting, how you doing, my friend? And as if I didn't know, what are you sipping on?
I'm actually sipping on Jameson Black Barrel tonight. Yeah. So I went to the package store by my house to pick up something appropriate for this show yesterday. I was trying to think ahead because I wanted to make sure of two things. One, that I had something to answer you with, but also not make it the same thing from the last time I was on.
Sure.
And I thought, well,
But you know, if it keeps well and you love it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely. But fun fact, I gave a full bottle of that old Overholt that I had in the house to Scuba Pete. Because,
okay.
Because he's a bourbon whiskey guy as well, and I wanted him. He never tried it. And it was a reverse host gift. It was a reverse kind of thing. So I said, you know what? I want to find the whiskey that Harrison Ford was purported to be drinking during the post-Marion truck blowing up scene in Cairo.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked everything up, and what I discovered was that the prop bottle for that scene that's sitting on the table beside him and the monkey, it actually has a recreated label for Belle of Lincoln. Now, for those of you that don't know, Belle of Lincoln was a sub-brand name that Jack Daniels went under in other markets for a while, and now it is also the name of a type of bottle that Jack Daniels sometimes has put whiskey in. And if you go and look at the prices for a Belle of Lincoln Jack Daniels whiskey bottle in that style, which is totally different, the Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark bottle is basically like this. It's just like a typical bottle.
Sure.
But like the Belle of Lincoln bottle is like this thin-necked, flared out thing. It's like a big, those things are like $1,800 a bottle. I was like, well, I ain't gonna be drinking that. So I decided to pick something that could be drunk, that you take straight, because Indiana Jones taught me to always drink my whiskey straight. So.
There you go. As long as you're not drinking poison, because I don't have an antidote for you.
No, I appreciate that. No,
but
that was champagne.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I do want to welcome you back to the show. I thank you for coming back, and there's really only one way that I can toast to you.
Welcome home, old boy.
Tim Hay says there's sound. Extra sound from you.
It's a little low.
Too much sound for me?
Yeah, that's what
Makes a
Tim Hay
little
says.
Okay, I can take my mic down a little bit. Give me just a second here, because when I've been drinking, multitasking becomes a little bit more challenging. How does that sound? Is that a little bit better?
And you sound the same to me. So Tim Hayes.
Yeah, give people in the chat, I need you to let me know how that sounds. And in the meantime, let me real quick, speaking of the chat, welcome everyone and go through the chat and say hi to everybody. I know Matanui was here like 2 hours early, so welcome Matanui. You are always so encouraging to me. Big Al, hello everyone. I have a great stream, my friends. It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. Absolutely. And Lady Mist, so encouraging. She was double streaming it because she said hi to me over on Max World Entertainment. And I literally came over here to start rehearsing my song. I hope that sounded okay. And she's already over here saying hi. So, and giving me the flowers. Thank you so much. That's always so encouraging. Logical Spot, hi peeps, he says. Kapla, and live long and prosper. He hung out with us on Netter Stream last night. That was a lot of fun. Go check that out. Scott Hughes, hello gentlemen, and I'm assuming and lady. Let's see here. Keely Chow, hi everyone, good to see ya. And of course Tim Hayes, always faithful Tim Hayes. I super appreciate seeing you here. David Pensack, pain is temporary, but film is forever. And thank goodness Indy will always be with us. Yes, absolutely. That's kind of what we're kind of getting together to celebrate. Godzilla Master 84, sup everybody. Let's see here. I should be studying for my finals, but oh, what the hell. It is a Friday. I will say that. I remember my Fridays when I was in college. Well, it involved a lot of pool besides the alcohol, but there you go. Deleted Scenes. He had said he would be running late, but I knew that we'd have a long intro, so thanks so much for being here, Deleted Scenes. One of my favorite Blue Wrenches. You are awesome. Wow! RetroBlasting is in the stream. My goodness. It is always so encouraging when I see him in the chat. Hey, everyone. Really excited to be back on Last Call. This should be a lot of fun. Michael, I'm glad he didn't say this should be my last time. Honest. Let's see. Oh, Aged Boomer, too. Netter of Netters Network, of course.
Sweetie.
David Whitehead, evening all. Evelyn Hampton, Kapla, Aj, Nech. Connie Cleary, the patron of my drink. Thank you so much for being here, Connie. You are always so encouraging. Troy, should have sung Anything Goes. Let me tell you. It was about 2 weeks ago. Netta and I talked about that. And she said, I think I could sing it in Mandarin. And she looked up the lyrics and she watched over and over Mrs. Steven Spielberg, what's her name? Kate Capshaw. She's like, yeah, I don't think I can do this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, and I haven't sung this song in years. I'm not even going to give it a try. I don't want to ruin it. Like Kathleen Kennedy dancing over it or something like that. Skipper Kenner, good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see. Going to be talking about a subject you will be very interested in a little bit, Skipper Kenner. Everybody's saying hi to each other, which always encourages me. I love seeing you guys talk to each other. I love the community here. KBA, hello everyone. I like the hat. Let's see here. Analog Toys. I am so glad you are here, because I was going to be talking about you, and better that you be in the chat when I talk about you. So, Michael, I was watching your retrospective on Joe Fest this past weekend.
Yep.
And sent in because I always do, just to encourage you, I send in a super chat, and Tony's reading the chats, and he looks and he goes, last call with Troy Pacelli. He's like, that's our friend, and he indicates you, and I got to tell you, I was so damn encouraged. You know, it's like someone I haven't met, you know, like in person, haven't shared a stream with, anything like that. For him to say it so genuinely, you know, I mean,
if you were to ask some people, they would probably mirror Belloc and say, you chose the wrong friends. This time it will cost you. But in our case, we feel that you've chosen the right friends. So
I absolutely look. Skipper Kenner, who's in the chat, knows this. He's the one who kind of I picked this up from. Everybody that I meet starts at, you know, ground level, right? And I give you the benefit of the doubt, and it's up to you to gain or lose that level of respect. And I kind of figure it out pretty quick. And sometimes I don't, and sometimes I get hurt. I tend to err on the side of respect and expect the best of people, and that leaves me open to getting hurt. And especially in the past 2-3 years, I've had some people that I realized not the friends I thought they were. And some of the stories you've shared, Michael, I know you know exactly what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, people like you and Tony, I just, I have no doubts. I don't have to worry about that, you know. Anyway.
He was so chuffed.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, thanks so much, Tony. Just, you don't even realize how encouraged I felt just by that little glimpse of genuineness. You know, I super appreciated that. So, I sometimes think, how does Tony even know who I am? You know, I mean, it's like, but that's Tony, you know. It's, you know, I think if there was a Marvel universe worth following, and they did what they did in the Ultimates, you know, Tony would be Captain Australia. Just saying, you know.
Yep. 100%.
But let's see here. I don't want to miss anybody, so let me real quick go through everyone. Brian Dillingham.
You already did it. You already did it. That was from before.
Okay. Oh, see, you know exactly where I'm at. Okay. Yep. Brian, thank you. Let's see here.
English, your sound is better.
Yeah. They're talking drinks. We should too. Is anyone drinking something tonight? Absolutely. Tell me in the chat. What are you all sipping on? Tim Hayes. Yeah. Is there anyone you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're still. I'm so behind. I'm sorry. I'll get caught up. I will. Fletcher Williams. I suck at games. Drinks and multitask. Yeah. They don't go too well together. At least not with me. Action Pop Dad.
I have a message for him. I missed his attempt to call me yesterday. I was not ignoring you. I totally missed it. I apologize. We'll catch up soon. So,
and he's very late here, yeah, but you know, I totally get it. You know, I know that we have many different time zones, and I played the game by deciding it's 9 Central, you know, and calling it last call. It was you know, we'll see what my audience thinks is late. Let's see. Oh. So encouraging. I am never sure. I assume I sound like trash when I sing, but I super appreciate that, Connie. You're very, very sweet. I'm really just zipping through these. I should be going to bed so I can be up early for work, but it is Indiana Jones. Yeah, see, right? Exactly. I get that. And yeah, I saw the private chat. Thanks. I'm assuming Netter's keeping up with these, but for her benefit.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I'm totally on top of mine.
And I know you are. Is going to be Joe Lant. Okay, so you know what? As long as this is coming up in the chat, this was a topic I meant to use as an intro. So, again, on Monday, you had that really great stream with everybody who was there for Joe Fest. And I'm watching it, and Netter's watching it, and I'm like, you know, we haven't been to a con since before COVID. And I miss that. And although I'm not a real diehard Joe fan, at least not, the 80s 3 3/4-inch Joe and whatnot. Skipper Kenner has always talked about Joe Fest, and I know he went once on the corporate dime because he was able to write it off, but I'm thinking it might be fun to go, just for the heck of it, just to hang out with some friends and meet some people that I've never gotten to meet.
I already accepted.
There you go. So
I would definitely take his recommendation for like the Atlanta thing as well, because once you're there, you can do the convention for a day, and then Atlanta has a lot to see and do as well if you wanted to, take that opportunity.
It's funny because when Netter and I were dating, there was a convention in St. Louis that we went to, and the talk was, we'll go take in the Arch and all that kind of stuff. We never left the hotel, and it's not just because it was me and Netter in the hotel. I meant, for the convention.
I get it.
There's one that I don't know if you've passed or not already, but Analog Toy said, our friend Troy Pacelli, in quotes, there's no lie in that statement.
I know that.
So
I know that
sweet.
about you. You are so genuine. You have many, many talents. I don't imagine you're that good an actor that you could sound that genuine just in an offhanded comment to Michael on a stream like that, especially after y'all had been drinking. So I knew you were 100% on the level. Master of the TDS, so good to see you at Shabbat Shalom. Let's see here. And Analog Toys is drinking proper strong Yorkshire tea. Fair enough. Still kind of loud. Keeping in mind that Netter's sharing the mic, and I just happen to be a very loud person in general. So let me know if I am still coming in kind of hot.
I think it's an older message, sweetie.
It might be. Yeah. Okay. No. Aged Boomer said I'm coming in louder than
Yeah, just a little.
for example,
bit, maybe
Michael.
lower a
So
little
yeah, I'll just bring it down a little bit. That's fine.
While you're doing that, Skipper Kenner said, okay, straight up, Troy does sing really well, and if you ever watch his reading of the Little Matchstick Girl here, you gotta give it a watch if you haven't.
Dude, that is super encouraging. I did that on a lark. I actually got a lot of great responses on that. I really should do more readings like that. I super appreciate that. That's of course with him, he's not like Tony. I never know when he's fucking around and when he's being serious. So no guarantees on that one. Let's see. I think I'm caught up. If I missed a comment, if I missed saying, I did miss somebody. Lester San Jose, just got back from my weekly side gig. Going to finish my cider. I haven't had cider in years.
And I don't know if you got them, but David Whitehead, hello.
Yep,
Brian
I did say
Dillingham,
hi to David. Joe, good evening, y'all. Good to see you.
Becky.
And
Zombie Box Reviews.
your hair looks wonderful in that hat. It is a wonderful hat, and I think that's where I probably want to pivot into the conversation. So you really have put a lot of effort into making sure you have if I'm correct, it's the Raiders hat specifically.
Yes. You're casual, and I don't mean that with any shade. I think it's wonderful to be a casual fan of something. And I think that's how we're able to mine experts. I hate it when somebody claims they're an expert at everything that exists, because no, that's not possible. But casual fans of Indiana Jones have often mistakenly thought that it's the same hat in every movie.
No, yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, it's like, no, the hat...
Well, I'm not that big an Indiana Jones fan.
Right.
But I am a fedora fan.
Yeah, and the thing is that the hat does change markedly from Raiders through to the one that's in the rest of the films. And while they are also different in their own ways, they are all of a kind.
Right.
Whereas the Raiders hat is totally distinct. It's totally distinct.
Yeah. The only thing that bothers me is that canonically it's supposed to be the same hat, so you kind of want it to be the same.
They never say it is. They simply say that's where he learned to wear a hat like that from Adventure.
That's fair, and it's very clear. There's when he's dressed in a suit, for example, he's wearing a matching fedora, so he doesn't wear that hat all the time.
Until we get to Last Crusade, where they, I should say, Last Crusade is the anomaly in that regard, because it was like the marketing people on Last Crusade were like, no, keep him in the brown hat all the time, no matter what happens. And it's like, that's weird, like, because obviously he didn't do that in the other films, including Crystal Skull. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, Netter will tell you, when I leave the house, I only ever wear this hat on streams and at formal occasions.
Right.
And I've got a brown wool fedora. Looks a little bit more of a country style, almost a cowboy hat, that I wear most of the time with a brown jacket. But if I'm wearing something black, I've got a similar style wool black fedora. You know.
Do you want me to get your brown one?
No. I'm not going to break type. And let's face it, there's no competing with the one that Michael's wearing. That's for sure. Scuba Pete, though. Scuba Pete's another one that I wanted to hold up. I didn't, because I wanted to get through all the chats. But Scuba Pete said something in the last chat on your stream.
Mm-hmm.
He greeted me and he's like, Troy and Netter are awesome, or something like. I don't remember exactly what he said. And let me tell you something. You're good to me. I super appreciate that. You're good to Netter. You are aces in my book. You know, and just the fact that Scuba Pete sees me and thinks Netter, that meant everything to me. You know, so yeah, I don't know how many of y'all are going to be in Atlanta for the for Joe Fest next year or whatever, but now I just freaking want to meet you people. I really do. And no, Tony, I'm not necessarily expecting you to come every year or something like that, but if you do, I damn well want to be there, you know? I'm not coming near as far as you are, for F's sake. It's funny that I've never gotten down to your neck of the woods, because you've also got, what's that, Dragon Con?
Yeah.
I had so many friends talking about Dragon Con. And I'm like, it's too far, it'll cost too much. I hate flying. I've always hated flying, and not because of a fear of crashing or heights. It's just the bullshit you go through with the airlines. You know.
Yeah, that's never fun, especially after 9/11. That's never fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Melinda Mock, appreciate you being here. That's another one that I definitely would like to meet. You guys are a great couple. I want to have a double date with you. Melinda, what gives? No love? Just saying. I am a disappointment. No, I find that very difficult to believe. You know, unless you think you smell or something. I mean, other than that, I can't imagine. But and I'm sorry, Mary. Meant to say hi, but I'm real excited. I'm having a really really exciting chat here with everyone. People want to meet me until they meet me. Sounds like me. Yeah, exactly. I know. I understand. I think you and Netter would get on famously. I really do. I really, really do. Oh, and I would love to see more baking videos. I really would. I have that Superman cake video like saved as a favorite, and I go back to that every now and again, and I'm thinking, do I want to get back into baking again? I don't know. I might.
I do.
You do. I know you do. Absolutely. But let's see. Flying South. No. This is the one I want to get back to. Get us back on track. Thank you very much, KBA. Indy always struck me as the sort of man that would own many hats to match whatever he was wearing. I agree, but I would say I always imagined he had that one brown fedora specifically for, as I do, adventuring. For me, just leaving the friggin' house is an adventure.
The way I've always understood it in my own mind is that he prefers a certain style and color of hat to wear when he's in the field.
Yeah.
And he learned that from that guy, which we can get into that later. That's a hang up for me, but
really? Okay.
Oh yeah. But the hat itself is not necessarily the same one, though, and this is the whole thing. This gets back to the whole Last Crusade thing. Last Crusade created this mythos that it is the same hat, even though it didn't explicitly say that, because of certain visual things it did for the sake of I should say comedy and awe. But we can talk about that in a minute.
No, absolutely. Actually, what I did want to get to is, by the way, I'm going to just say this up front while I'm thinking of it. I know it's going to go out of my head, but if at any time I reference a video of Michael's, there is in the description below, I created a, playlist of some of my favorite RetroBlasting Indiana Jones related videos. Just go check it out. It'll be there. It'll be one of those videos in a bunch of things.
Thank you.
But so I'm going to start where I usually do on topics like this. What was your first experience with, I'm going to assume, Raiders? Yes.
Somehow my parents, we did not, I lived in Nashville. It was around 1982, 83, something like that. And Raiders made it to this burgeoning new medium called cable television. And it was a little channel called Showtime.
Yeah.
And my parents...
Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents, they knew somebody that had cable TV and had a VHS deck that would tape them off the thing. And he taped Raiders in its entirety off of Showtime. And so for many, many, many years... I had my copy of Raiders was this hard black plastic clamshell, snap case, Memorex, whatever you want. And my mom wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark on the label, and everybody was very serious about their VHSs back then.
I remember my first copy of Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
And every time I would put that tape in, it would start with the Showtime disclaimer.
Yep.
And I never forget that guy's voice. It was a blue gradient background with the Showtime white video sort of keyed in font, and it said some of the program content may be unsuitable for young children. Parental discretion is advised.
Yep.
And then I'd watch Raiders of the Lost Ark with no commercials, no interruptions, no nothing. It was great. But that was my first experience, was VHS off of Showtime, no commercials, just barely a year after it was in theaters. Something like that.
Say goodbye to Melinda. She's got to get back to work.
Bye, Melinda.
I tell you to say that when she's right there in the house with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't talk to her enough, right? Talk about that. Netta and I streaming together all the time. We work together. We live together. For crying out loud, we're always together.
Yep. We're 4 feet apart right now.
We're 4 feet apart right now. She's sitting right over there.
That's right.
Saw Raiders opening weekend solely because Han Solo was in it. To say it was a game changer is obviously an understatement. My first experience with Raiders was very similar to my first experience with Star Wars. Do you remember, when did Raiders come out during 81. The year?
June 81.
June. It was summer. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, because I went to see it at the theater. Did I see that one at the drive-in, or was that just Star Wars? And now I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember if I saw it with my grandparents or my uncle. Probably both. It was a big deal that summer, so really, really got into it. And so I really looked forward to it coming out on cable when it finally hit cable, because same thing. I recorded it. And do you remember, on VHS, you had your choice of extended play, where you could get a whole bunch of TV shows on there in low resolution, or one movie in high resolution.
That was what made this VHS copy off Showtime so great, was because I had Star Wars Empire and Star Trek 3 on one tape.
Wow!
Raiders, and they were all taped off cable, by the way. There were no commercial interruptions.
Right.
But Raiders was allowed to breathe the entire tape. It was a standard recording, recording format, and so Raiders actually looked really good on VHS.
I would imagine.
And I think that might have contributed a lot to how much of an impression it left on me. It wasn't.
I can imagine.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Film.
This is the kind of the problem with trying to share your beloved franchises with people. You can tell people how great it is, and you can watch it with them, and so on and so forth. But what you can't replicate is the minutia of the associations you make with it. I mean, for me with Star Wars, it was that summer hanging out in Ohio with my uncle, and that blow up lightsaber that yellow blow up lightsaber that got a hole in it that my mother would patch with nail polish, lacquer and whatnot, and I just for a little while until it popped again, But you kind of can't pass that on.
No.
The only way to do that is you have a get together with friends, show the movie, and it's that shared experience that they will latch onto and love and build new memories and so forth. Boomer, I'm assuming Raiders was the first one for you too?
Raiders was the first one for me. We did get Showtime, but that's not how I first experienced it. My father rented it, I think, from the local video store, and we watched it. And I, of course, was, I think, 5 years old at the time, maybe 4. And I remember getting to the point where the Ark of the Covenant opens up, and you have a guy's face is melting off, and that terrified me as a child.
Yeah.
I kept coming back to Raiders years later, though, and I was like, I would always get to the end and not watch and stop the tape until I eventually got the courage to just watch it all the way through. This coming from a guy that watches horror movies regularly. When I was a kid, I was a little chicken of this.
It's funny you say that, because another movie that I saw with my uncle was Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D in the theater. And sorry, I'm going to get off on a tangent, guys, but damn it, it's my stream and I can do that if I want to. Friday the 13th, go to see it with my uncle and my aunt, right? And 3D glasses, the whole bit, the eyeballing your face and all that kind of stuff, right? And I got so freaked out. And how do you watch a horror movie when you're a kid? Like this. And you watch it through the lattice of your fingers. Like that somehow protects you, I guess.
Yes.
And I was doing that, and my uncle's like, if you just take the glasses off, it's all blurry, and it's kind of the same thing. And I'm like, very good. And I would cover my eyes when something really scary would happen, and my aunt is egging me on. She's like, okay, it's over. And I'd go to look, and I'd freak out because she was bullshitting me. And my uncle reaches across me, because I was sitting between them, reaches across and says, leave him alone. Which surprised me. Because my uncle is that very alpha male, toughen up type of guy. So for him to be okay with that was kind of a surprise. I asked my grandmother about that, and she's like, oh, he never told you the story about when he went to see Psycho in the theater with his friends from the football team? No. He's like, oh, well, he drew the lot to go and get popcorn and candy and everything for the team. So he goes out to get the popcorn, and he comes back with his arms full of, the concessions just at the shower scene. And he comes in and he's like, ah! He throws everything all over the place. And he's never lived that down. So he is not about to start any shit with you. Exact quote, my grandmother used that word. And I was like...
And Grandma Mary didn't usually swear.
Yeah, Netter actually got to meet Grandma Mary. So yeah, no, absolutely true. So, little side note, just wanted to share that story. But, where did I derail us from? You were in the middle of sharing it.
You're asking about Indiana Jones?
Yes.
Yes. I was. I did, because I was really into Star Wars as a kid. Jedi comes out, Jedi comes and goes, and I'm like, well, that's fine. But now, Star Wars is kind of over. What am I going to get into now? And that's when I kind of grafted onto Indiana Jones. I don't know if I realized at the time that they were sort of related because the same creative minds were behind both.
Right.
I did remember getting a lot of the action figures for Raiders. I had the Well of the Souls set. I had the truck set, the truck from the truck scene. I had that. I had a bunch of the action figures. You could not find Indiana Jones in his Indiana Jones outfit. You could find him disguised as a German soldier, right? But you couldn't find one with him in the actual. And you had the one where he was disguised as the, in his desert outfit with the, with the robes and everything. But you couldn't find.
In the link below is all the videos you will ever need about Indiana Jones toys. Michael definitely covers all of that. Yeah, no doubt about that. No, I hear you, Boomer.
And I remember one time I was in a store and I was looking around. They had a whole bunch of Indiana Jones figures, and I found one. I found Indiana Jones, the actual action figure. And I was so excited because this was like, pun or maybe pun intended, the Holy Grail. Well, of course, Last Crusade hadn't come out yet, but I was very excited to have my Indiana Jones figure. Bring it home, came with a little gun that went in its side holster. And the whip was funny. It was like this little funnel with a piece of string that came out on top. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really look like the whip from the movie, but whatever. And that little gun that went in its holster, I swear, 2 hours later.
You brought it up. I got to do this. Sorry, Michael. Here it comes.
Closely mimics an actual whip. It's very safe, though.
Closely mimics an actual whip.
Mimics an actual whip? Did he really just say that? Like, I know these guys are useless, but do they have to call themselves out on it? I mean, this mimics an actual whip. God almighty.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, I know. There we go. Whoa!
That's a whip.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I always love that bit.
I gotta say, that video impressed the hell out of me.
That's like the whip he had was like something out of 50 Shades or something, right?
No, fuck that shit. That's play acting bullshit.
Anyway.
He's got a friggin' custom, just like the hat, 100% accurate bullwhip.
Yes.
He's got a video about that too, and I'm not sure that's in the playlist.
That's okay. It's an early video, and I think we should ride right past that one. Anyway.
No, that was a good video. Yeah.
Anyway, please continue, Boomer.
Anyway,
get off of me. Get back to Boomer. Yeah, I hear ya.
One day, some friends. I was in elementary school, and some friends and I on the playground. They were playing monkey in the middle with me with my Indiana Jones figure, and of course, it fell to the ground and his leg snapped off. Oh. My dad tried gluing it on, but that never works.
So you're saying that the thumb lasted longer than the legs? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying though the gun disappeared like a couple hours later. Those things, those little guns you got with those action figures, even when you tried as a kid to make sure nothing happens to them, they still disappeared.
I know, absolutely.
But
hell, I have a problem as an adult too. I literally put little guns into big Ziploc bags just so I don't friggin' lose them, you know?
I was obsessed with Indiana Jones. My dad had a fedora, and I would sneak and put it on.
Are you serious? You're actually getting one to show on camera?
Yes, here's your baggie.
Yeah, one of the baggies with the.
Well, here's one with stuff in it.
Oh yeah, my two mouse droids, exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Netter.
Well, I didn't have those as a kid, and I might have thought of that.
If we're going to talk about props.
I know. Sorry, Boomer, go on.
No, nothing though. I used to dress up as Indiana Jones too, as best I could as a kid. I think I had a beige turtleneck, which I thought was close enough to what he wore.
When you're a kid, why not? That's fair.
And
That's
I had my dad's fedora. I would sneak, and when we would go to a theme park like Great Adventure, I would buy the whips they would sell. Now, of course, they weren't as fancy as the one we just saw now, but you can actually whip them out longer than what we saw the other guy doing, and they would make the snap. The trouble is, the more you use them, they would eventually just fray at the edge.
Yeah, because it was that like those ones you got at the fairs were like barely rawhide, and then they tapered off, and then they had like string at the end, and
they
string
did, and then the strings would just pop out.
I did have one of those, but no, I've got a real bullwhip that I've used with costumes and whatnot. I am certainly not as skilled as Michael. I've tried it out, cracked it a couple times, got real excited, and that's it. And it has sat in a loop for so long, I don't think you could ever straighten it out again. But no, I hear you.
I did remember.
Netter's not into the whips and chains stuff, so we never really had a chance to.
That's the one thing that has driven me crazy over the years as an Indiana Jones aficionado, is that that your average person only knows in their mind when you say the word whip, they think fetish. And that's the only thing they understand, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that a bullwhip like the ones used in Indiana Jones are the same as the ones used.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's like
I don't know how I know that. Don't
but it's like I don't think because when you start researching and figuring out what kind of whip you need that's going to match up with Indiana Jones, you of course learn about all these different types. There's stock whips and call them black snake whips and all this kind of stuff. And so like you learn about those types as well, and you go there. If only they knew and saw a whip like that in action, like in that clip, they immediately realized, oh, yeah, that's not something that can be used in a bedroom. All right, like that's
no. There's the difference between ooh yeah, whip me more, and what the fuck? Get off me! What?
I laughed when this was pre 9/11. I would carry, if I ever had to carry my whip somewhere, I would on a flight. I would always have it in a carry-on because just in case the luggage got lost.
Sure.
It'd be a very expensive thing to lose.
Yes.
And a whip is a completely non-lethal weapon on an airplane. Like there is no way in an airplane you can use a whip like that. But I still had a guy. Now it's actually on post 9/11. It's on the banned list for carry-on, which is so dumb. But it's like. Even back then, I would have guys stop the baggage through the security, and they would look, pull a whip out, and be like, "Oh, we need to check," and I'd be like, "Guys, what am I gonna do with that on an airplane?" Like,
yeah, exactly.
You could literally run up and stab me with a plastic meal fork before there was
exactly.
I can, crazy.
I mean. I suppose you could crack it if you had perfect conditions and no one standing in the aisle and you went straight out. But that's...
Yeah, but even that with a whip that's 10 feet long, you got to have a good curl going, and that curl...
That's what I mean, perfect conditions.
Yeah,
I mean...
Nah.
And that would not be your weapon of choice if you're trying to do anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean... Look, believe me, I've had these arguments in Dungeons and Dragons games. I hear you. But I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to jump through the chat. I'm usually very able to keep up with the chat, but you guys are all here for Michael. It's a very busy chat. I'm not used to this, so you gotta. If there's something that I'm really missing, give me a shout out, and I'll make sure I bring it up. But Netter, first time you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. Please don't say it wasn't until we got married.
Oh no! I saw it. I want to say right around the time it came out, and I think I saw it in theaters.
Did you really?
Yeah.
This was before you worked in the theater, though, right?
I don't recall. When did Raiders come out? What year?
80. Help me out, Michael. When did Raiders come out?
June 81.
June of 81.
No, I definitely wasn't working in the theaters then. I just graduated from high school the year before.
Oh, gotcha.
Also, someone's saying that your super chats aren't turned on.
I don't have super chats because I'm not monetized.
Oh, okay,
But-
right.
Yeah, but just make sure you do the whole, at mention me and...
Sorry, Netter. So what were you saying?
I was going to say, if you do want to buy Troy a drink, in his description below, there is a link to our PayPal.
Actually, it's in the top of the chat,
it's at the top. Okay. Well, it's somewhere. So you can buy him a drink that way. But yeah, I saw it in theaters. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I saw the movie and I'm like, hey, this is a really great movie. And since I was older than Boomer, their melting faces didn't freak me out.
Yeah. She'd already graduated high school.
Okay.
When you were still in grade school, she graduated high school.
I got
It's
you.
like, I've liked all of the Indiana Jones movies I've seen, even the refrigerator and the atomic bomb one. It was reaching, but it was interesting.
Bosco Scenario, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah, nuking the fridge, absolutely. PJ from Orville Nation. How come this channel isn't monetized? What a crime. Well, look, it's not about the monetization, it's about the community. And I'm fired up about the community, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I could always use some more subscribers. But anyway, yeah, so Raiders. Which brings us, of course, to, and I've got a much better story here. The Temple of Doom. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little fuzzy around the edges. You gotta forgive me. So, this was a prequel. And this was something I knew because I was a Bantha Tracks subscriber. I was a Star Wars fan club member, and therefore, I got all the interviews. And so it wasn't just Star Wars. You got all the Indiana. You could get. I think they sold a hat in the Bantha Tracks, and there was some stickers you can get and whatnot that were Indiana Jones related. So I kept up on all of that too. So I was really looking forward to the sequel prequel. Michael, it's not most casual fans don't like it as much as Raiders, but it's one that's grown on me. You want to share a little bit about that one?
Yeah, I was not allowed to see this movie when it was in theaters.
This was one of those ones, along with Gremlins, that kind of led to that whole PG-13 movement.
And oddly enough, my parents were willing to rent Gremlins after it came out on VHS. But Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, they pre-screened it, and they would not let me go see it.
Wow. Because of the violence?
The heart ripping out and all that stuff. And here's the funny part. I still had an unadulterated, untruncated Raiders of the Lost Ark with people melting and everything at home, but they were like, no, this is too much. But they didn't stop me from owning any of the ephemera around it. So, like, for example, I could go to Wendy's and I got all the posters from stuff that made the big thing. I got the cassette soundtrack. I got the Nintendo game. I was allowed to play the arcade game in arcades. Like, I was able to do everything that is Temple of Doom, but see the movie. And so I ended up not seeing that film because once you get into adolescence and everything like that, they're not opposing you seeing movies like that at that stage, but you've already moved on to Terminator 2 and RoboCop and all that kind of stuff, and so your mind's not on it. I didn't end up seeing that movie until 1994.
That's kind of crazy, especially when you mention RoboCop, and I think about the co-ed shower scene and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and when I saw it, it was funny. I'd seen a few clips of it when I went in the 80s, when some parents of a friend of mine that I went over for a slumber party, they were watching it in another room, but we were obsessed with playing Super Mario Brothers, so we weren't actually watching it. But I saw the bug scene, the bug thing, and I saw a glimpse of the guy's heart getting ripped out and stuff. So I had encounters with the movie in the 80s, but I was told by my parents, you're not supposed to watch that one, whatever. And then, so when I saw it in 1994 on HBO, they were running it like every other day for some reason. And I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I've never sat down and really watched this one. And I was like, this movie's awesome. I was like, I would have given anything to have had this experience in the 80s when I was a kid. This movie kicks so much ass. And, and it instantly became my second favorite.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Even though I think you and I have chewed a lot of the same temporal and fan ground, I think I'm a little bit older than you are. So I think I was a little older going into to Temple of Doom, but my mom was pretty liberal about those kinds of things. I'm sorry, I'm fidgeting.
No, I'm just hearing you tapping.
Yeah, I'm
come through
because I'm tapping the desk. Yeah, my mom was very much of the mindset of, if there's anything in the film that's inappropriate, it'll go over their head. And if it doesn't go over their head, what damage is really done, right? I remember I went with a buddy and his mom. She took us to see the movie Airplane. And I remember being home when she was talking to my mom's friend about it. And I guess I didn't hear the other side of the conversation, but my mother was telling me apparently she was apologizing for taking her son to see this movie that was so inappropriate. She's like, well, what was inappropriate about it? I'm like, yeah, there was probably some things that might not have been too cool for younger kids. And my mom stops her conversation and looks. She says, like what? And I said, well, like the female lead giving a blowjob to the balloon guy. Mm-hmm. And my mom just had this blank look like, wait, what now? Because she hadn't seen this movie. Right. And so Gail on the other side is explaining to her. She's like, well, didn't go over his head. It's not like he learned anything new. Yeah, I was still in grade school. Catholic school. What does that tell you about kids in Catholic schools? Sorry.
I went to Catholic school.
Yeah. Wow, we have way more in common than I thought. But I bet you're not old enough to flinch when someone hands you a ruler.
I got put in a child psychologist's office in the 5th grade because of what the nuns did to me.
Wow.
Convent school for 5 years. St. Bernard Academy, Nashville, Tennessee. It was a literal convent.
Wow.
Went back to the turn of the century. It was the creepiest place you could ever go to school.
Yeah, I can imagine. My mom had gone to, obviously, Catholic Italian, right? Mm-hmm. She'd gone to Catholic school all her life, too. So when I was, believe it or not, I remember this. First grade, going into first grade, I remember taking the tour of the school with my mom, and my mom saying to the nun who was giving us the, tour, she's like, look, let me tell you one thing. I remember what it was like going to Catholic school. If any of you women lay a hand on my son and put his head against the locker, I'll put your head through a wall. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, no, we don't do that anymore. She's like, I hope not. Which wasn't entirely true, because I remember Sister Crescentine, when I was in 2nd grade, grabbing me by the ear and dragging me up to the front of the room, or grabbing me by the hair. Tell my mother about this, and she's like, well, what did you do? And I told her, and she's like, well, you're going to get worse from me, right? So, but this was the tail end of that kind of stuff. So
right.
I exaggerate about the rulers, but yeah, it got bad sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I remember being brought into the principal's office for getting in a fight, and it wasn't my fault. I was literally trying to defend myself. My mother comes in and says, I hope you laid the kid out, which immediately set the stage for the principal and the nun, and we're like, it's like, well, look, and the nun tries the whole you're supposed to turn the other cheek and blah 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 blah. She's like, that's fine when the teacher is there to break it up. Where were you?
Right.
Well, that just set the whole tone for the thing. I guess they were a little surprised because they thought, a Catholic Italian mom would be... No. She was a little more progressive than that, I suppose. But, sorry, totally got off track on that. That happens when I've been drinking.
Temple of Doom.
Yes, Temple of Doom. I'm sorry, Michael, was there more that you were going to share about your...
I was just going to say that Temple of Doom is a brilliant movie, and it's the only other movie in the Indiana Jones franchise that remains true to
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The Lost Ark and what it was.
And that pulp tradition.
There are tells in Temple of Doom that Lucas and Spielberg were starting to change their mind about a few things that would go way over the lip of the glass in Last Crusade.
We'll get to that in Last Crusade, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
They were starting to even going so far as to change the way they titled the movies at that point, because originally it was supposed to be a Raiders films, so it was going to be Raiders of this, Raiders of that, Raiders of this, and they started changing their mind.
I am so sorry. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Elena Chapman has come in. She's got a great channel, very spiritual, self-help kind of channel. Definitely recommend you at least check it out. Great stuff there. Gosh, thank you so much for stopping by, Elena. It's really good to see you. And I don't think I said hi to Michael Hinkson. Hello, gang. Hey, Troy and Michael. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah, my history with Indiana Jones is a little bit different, but it comes around. It does. I didn't, at first viewing, didn't enjoy it as much as Raiders, but I liked it. I had a hard time getting into what the object was he was going after. I didn't know much about Hindu culture and so forth. But I was all in on Indy. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was that year. What year did that come out again?
84.
So I must have been about 14, 15, I think. No. I was closer to 13. The reason this is important is because I was in the Boy Scouts at the time. Mm-hmm. And we went to a high adventure camp in Cimarron, New Mexico called Philmont.
Yep.
Oh, you know it?
Oh, I do.
And I literally had to lie about my age to go to it because I needed to be, I think you needed to be 14 or 15, which to this day, to be in the Boy Scouts and you're lying to go to a camp, that doesn't seem right, but
right.
I had my scout leaders buy in on it and whatnot, and one of the things I was really looking forward to is I knew that one of the excursions you could go on was an archaeological dig to, I believe it was a Mayan dig site. And at the time I was reading the novelization of Temple of Doom. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the hiking was rough and you're carrying, 70 pounds, 80 pounds on your back. And for a 13-year-old, that's a lot of... Sure. That's a lot of weight, and I was I had blisters on my feet, the size of quarters. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Right.
But didn't faze me because I had that Indiana Jones theme going through my head, and I wanted to see that. It was my first archaeological dig site,
Right.
Not as exciting as I was expecting it to be.
No.
But it definitely fueled my interest. Mm-hmm. Honestly, from that point on, my interest in history cemented.
Yeah.
This idea of digging something up. And I just remember the girl that was, doing the tour explaining, this may just look like a bunch of rocks, but we're piecing together what a day in the life of somebody that lived in this area experienced, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I'm like, that's pretty damn cool. You know? and it just started all of that for me. So, but if I would not have made that connection if it wasn't for the fact that Indiana Jones, I'm reading the novelization at night by the fire as we're doing this hike. It was just, man, just some really great stuff. But,
well, that's another thing, you point out about how you were inspired to go experience the real thing. And the thing about Raiders and Temple of Doom and the how do I put this, the arrival of Indiana Jones onto the scene when we were all kids growing up with Star Wars, not knowing, as Boomer said, that they were related by the same company necessarily, but we knew that these two movies were popular at the same time.
Yeah,
there was a real disconnect there that I think leads to people like you and I latching onto and becoming fascinated with the history that those movies hint at for us as viewers, as kids. It makes us fascinated by history. One of the big things, you talked about, everybody here has talked about wanting to dress up as Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But the thing about Indy is that, unlike Star Wars, where you could go get a Darth Vader costume at Halloween, even though it was a cheap plastic one, you could go get a toy lightsaber or a toy stormtrooper blaster or whatever.
Yep.
Indiana Jones, because it had nothing like that, and because it was set
well, it does now. Now you can get that whip that mimics it.
back then the merchandising was not
right.
Don't make me flick off my own webcam. No, the thing is,
dude, that thing, I swear, is like a friggin' party favor. I'm like, oh my god, that's the kind of stuff that pissed me off as a kid. Those toys that were like, this is nothing like.
That's the thing. In the 80s, as kids, I don't know if you had this thought in your mind, but I did, was that the Indiana Jones stuff, because it was actually from the real world of just a slightly past time. I knew my grandfather grew up in that time that 1936 was supposed to be. Like, he grew 1919. So my grandfather was... So I knew all that stuff that Indy was carrying and everything like that was part of our world. Like, it was the Force, it wasn't the lightsaber, it wasn't this. So I never assumed for a moment that it would be turned into toys. Like, I thought, all of Indy stuff is real.
Yeah. You don't need a toy of that, right?
You get the real stuff, and that real stuff is actually, like, for adults. So, like, a revolver, the hats, the leather jackets, the boots, the this, and of course, the bullwhip and stuff. That's all very real world. So it was almost like Indy's whole thing is a real world thing that I just can't access yet. Like, this kind of, it was a stark demarcation line from, grab your yellow tube lightsaber and go pretend you're on Dagobah all day in the backyard. But if you want to pretend to be Indy, you got to come up with a lot more ingenuity, because you won't literally be able to have that stuff until you're an adult.
Right.
And that's when my grandfather explained to me, oh, yeah, you can get all that stuff at Army Navy surplus and stuff like that. And that's when I started getting real interested in all that kind of stuff, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get you. Boomer, how about you? First thoughts on Temple of Doom.
Yeah, Temple of Doom, I was not allowed to see in the theater because I remember...
You too, okay.
In fact, I wonder if maybe that's why I was trying to get through Raiders and finally watch it all the way through and not be scared, because I think maybe I thought in the back of my mind, they'll never take you to go see Temple of Doom if you're too chicken to watch Raiders.
Yeah, got a good point, yeah.
And I remember, I think they, like Michael's parents, I think they did a preview. My dad did a preview. They said, nope, the heart scene, we can't take you to see it. Eventually, when I would see the heart scene, I'm like, that wasn't nearly as terrifying as the faces getting melted off. I mean, it's still creepy as heck, but it's not... That wouldn't have messed me up like that other scene did. But I did eventually get to see it when it came out on video. I do remember, much like Michael, all the stuff in the periphery about that movie. I remember buying the Topps trading cards.
Yes.
Topps used to release those trading cards based on movies, and I was collecting the Temple of Doom ones. And and of course I heard all about the movie from my dad. My dad was excited because my dad loved Raiders, but he was also a big fan of old school musicals from like the 30s and 40s. So to see an Indiana Jones movie that opens with a musical number, he loved that. That really impressed him. But I think since then, it's gone on to be my favorite of the original three, which I know is an odd choice, but I used to, because I would go back and forth between the three, which one was my favorite, but in recent years it has been Temple of Doom, because it is the pulpiest. Upon rewatching, I'm realizing Indy's doing some shady stuff in the beginning of that movie.
That's
I don't
that's why
think
people fixate on it being a prequel, because
And it is a prequel.
The
It takes place before.
the character arc doesn't make sense if it doesn't come before Raiders.
It has my favorite of the Indiana Jones women in it, which is Willie Scott, Kate Capshaw, who I know is a pain in the butt, but I still like her.
I really did like Karen Allen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Karen Allen, but I got a type. I go for the blondes. And then when I found out that she married Steven Spielberg, I'm like, good on you, Spielberg.
I remember
her from the movie Dreamscape. That's where I kind of fell for.
with Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, absolutely.
Yes. But Short Round was interesting as an.
Why have we never seen him in any movie since? Damn it!
They really screwed the pooch by not putting him this, especially since the actor who played him just won the Oscar recently.
Yes.
But no, what I found interesting about the character of Short Round was typically when you're a kid and they have the kid's sidekick character movie, you don't like the kid's sidekick character. You don't like Wesley Crusher. You don't like the annoying kid character.
Right.
But Short Round didn't annoy me.
Yeah.
I liked him. I felt like he was still a kid, but he still held his own in the movie and didn't reach annoying for me.
I felt like he had the kid thing going on when he needed to, but he had the streetwise
smarts, yeah.
Yeah, when he needed to. And boy, his devotion to Indy.
You call him
Dr. Jones. I just okay, kid, okay.
You know what it is? I think you hit the nail on the head, because I remember Superman 3 has a lot of problems, but I like Lana's son in that, how Lana's son is on Superman's side in that. I think as long as the kid respects the hero,
yes,
he's not as annoying as the kid that's mouthing off to the hero or doing stupid stuff in the film.
Yeah, when you see him arguing with Indy, it's over inconsequential stuff. When it comes down to the clutch, right, I'm with you, man. Whatever you say,
But yeah, no, I remember... I think at that point I was still playing with the Raiders toys, and I was looking for Temple of Doom toys, and all I saw were these huge figures, and there were only like 3 or 4 of them. I'm like, these don't even match my...
They made the same mistakes with the Indy toys that Star Trek did with the Star Trek toys, and actually, Michael's got some videos about those too. They're not in the playlist I put together, but you should just friggin' check out his...
I would have
back
gone nuts for play sets based on Temple of Doom, like a Mind play set. Which I think the closest we've had is a Lego play set based on that. But
don't tell Michael that. He'll be out buying it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Did you see the share that I put up on Twitter for you, Michael, about it's a roller coaster Lego?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't want to contribute to your ad addiction, but I kind of see this as the mind chase from Indy, so...
Oh, sure. Yeah, and the Lego people did do a Temple of Doom set in 2009.
Yes, I looked it up.
Good luck with you on that one, man. You gonna buy 12 of those too?
They're very expensive now. I have one, and they were supposed to release a brand new one back in April, and they mysteriously canceled it. They only released the 3 sets that came out. There was supposed to be a Temple of Doom. There are pictures of it and everything. So
I hate when they do that. You almost... Well, I know that community. They probably have people that have looked at the pictures and figured it out and made it themselves and, put out the plans for it and all that stuff.
Yep.
But, yeah. Netter, what about you? Do you have any recollections of Temple of Doom? Kalima!
See, that all that made the movie really interesting. The parts that I didn't like in there too. I'm not squeamish when it comes to bugs, but when she's walking through those tunnels
and she turns her head over to look at her nail.
No. Just all those beetles, roaches, were all over the floor. crawling up her leg is like, no, that's where I draw the line.
I hear ya.
That, and when they're eating like the monkey brains and stuff.
Chilled monkey brains, yeah.
That grossed me out so much.
I get that. And I remember my mom saying something about that. She's like, this isn't even scary. This is just gross for grossness sake.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I get that, yeah.
I mean, I'm the one who catches the spiders and puts them outside and whatnot.
What were you going to say, Boomer?
I want to comment on that dinner scene because I feel it's a bad scene. I'm not going to defend it. Some people out there may like it. That's fine. This is why that scene exists. I brought up in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan when you're worried about what's going to happen to poor Chekhov and the other captain from the other starship.
Right.
Khan's going to, and Khan is doing the exposition about, his whole story, Captain Kirk. The reason why we pay attention to that exposition and we're not bored by it is because we're paying attention to our poor captives here.
Yeah.
The dinner scene has another exposition scene where they're trying to explain who the Thuggy cult are, and Dr. Jones is talking like, a professor.
Right.
But they can't just have that scene. They have to have something else going on to keep your attention. But the trouble is, instead of it enhancing that stuff, it just distracts.
Yeah, you get so focused on that, you're not, until subsequent viewings. Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll tell you what.
Like what they were trying to go for, but it doesn't work. It's just,
The scene where they're eating the meat out of the beetles, that one was the first time I realized, lobster and shrimp and whatnot are basically just aquatic bugs, aren't they? Oh, my.
Basically deviled crab, what he was eating there, right? That was...
I mean, is it significantly different if it's cooked? I don't know. But no, as I grew up though, and in college. It wasn't really until I got into college I took a world civ. I took 2 world civ classes and a world religion class, really just to fill requirements. But I found them incredibly fascinating. Learned so much about Hinduism and Indian culture. And what's my touchstone? Where do I turn? I look back at Indiana Jones and I'm like, oh, this makes a lot more sense now. Okay, I didn't understand because all I knew was, the Ark of the Covenant, growing up Catholic, I knew the Ark of the Covenant. I knew all that stuff, right? Before you get the exposition in the movie, I already knew what that was all about. I had no clue about, and yeah, I understand there's a lot of fictionalization and whatnot, but there are some deep cuts into the culture and religion that first viewing you don't even get. If you don't take the time to read into it. That's the other thing that I love about it. And I feel like that's Spielberg. Spielberg is like that. He wants there to be, this is all fantasy and fiction, but there's got to be something behind it for you to maybe look into a little deeper.
Well, that movie is banned in India.
Is it really?
Yeah, because of the monkey brain eating scene and all that. They felt to depict them in a bad light.
Yeah, Robert Watts, the production coordinator, he got so frustrated with the Indian Film Commission's constant demands for revisions to the script that he finally just said to Spielberg, "Are we going to be seeing the Taj Mahal in this movie?" And he said no. And he said, "Then we're shooting it in Sri Lanka. We're not doing this." Sri Lanka.
Yeah, and see, this is the kind of thing that I have a problem with when people get offended or whatever. It's like, context is very important here. These people in this scene, you find out that there's this whole cult involved, and some of them are brainwashed and stuff, and it's like, that matters.
Right.
You're supposed to realize this isn't typical. There's something off here.
Yeah.
Even Indy starts to pick up on that, right?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that's important to the story.
Keep your hands still.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm
Or at
sorry.
least stop thumping on your
I know.
tabletop.
I'm sorry. But, I get you. But, yeah, I guess the sensitivity goes all the way back, doesn't it? It's not just a modern thing. It just...
Yeah.
Okay. We've put it off long enough. I guess we got to get to it. The Last Crusade, which probably should have been The Last Crusade.
Yeah. Last Crusade, as wonderful as the movie is to watch, as delightful as Sean Connery film, it's a very watchable movie. There's nothing I'm trying to. It was. I saw it in the theater summer of '89 twice. That was when my mom surprised me with a real Indiana Jones hat from that summer that they were selling at the mall stores. You know, the official.
Yeah.
I still have that hat on display in my studio here.
Yeah.
I wore it all over Europe when I was a kid because we moved the next summer. The thing about Last Crusade is that it's diet raiders. They got scared off by the critical and parental backlash from Temple of Doom. Even though Temple of Doom was a wildly successful movie, like Temple of Doom was not a flop. Like it financially, it was like one of the top earners of 1984. Spielberg and Lucas were going into full, like, we're going to be the family-friendly filmmakers from now on. And so they did this Last Crusade as a kind of lighthearted comedy thing. And the way I equate it is it's not necessarily a problem if it was going to be a one-off. In other words, a tonal one-off. Like the mistake they made with the Thor franchise. They took the third one and tried a comedy with it, and it worked really well. So they said, let's keep doing that. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
So
you learn the wrong lesson, and that happens in Hollywood all the time.
Same thing happened with Star Trek 4. They added comedy to Star Trek 5. That's why you had a lot of the stupid comedy bits in Star Trek 5.
Right. And notice it's the same thing, right? So you got that's a great way to look at it, because the fourth Star Trek is the third part of a trilogy. And then the one right after that, which is it's like poetry. So the problem with Last Crusade isn't the comedy so much. It's the fact that that's when Spielberg decided, we need to deconstruct this character. I want to know what makes him tick. I want to know why he's the guy he is. I want to know what his relationship is with his dad. I want to know all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds great when you say it out loud, but with a pulp adventure character, that's a big mistake, because nobody, as we've seen, nobody cares, and rightfully so, as to what James Bond's hang-ups are after the fourth and fifth movies of maudlin brooding. Like nobody wants to know any of that. Pulp adventure heroes are there to take us on an adventure.
Yeah.
They're not there to turn the mirror back on us and so bringing in a dad and all this kind of stuff, and showing him when he was a young kid, and we got to show how he got the hat and how he got the scar and how he got the it doesn't hold up well long term for me. Like there are great scenes in Last Crusade, and there's some great action in it. And I won't say that Last Crusade isn't an Indiana Jones movie in the classic sense of real stunts, real practical sets, real all that, because obviously it was before computers. But Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade also really starts ramping up the silly, like the airplane going through the tunnel right next to them. And they're like, and all the stuff with, there's a million examples, but like, the pen is mightier than the sword, and you're just like, geez, like, can we, because right after he does that, he literally turns around and pulls the trigger and literally murders like 70 guys in a truck, and so you're like, what is going on here?
Right.
Like, this is very messed up tonally. Like, there's a lot of crazy tone shifts. So Last Crusade is and I know I'm rambling, but the final straw for me with Last Crusade, I don't hate the movie. I know it sounds like I do, but I'm trying to explain why it is, unlike Temple of Doom, Last Crusade in many ways is the real black sheep of the trilogy, because it brings in continuity elements you don't need. It brings in this goofy humor element that's never... Temple of Doom played with it a little bit, but Last Crusade committed to the bit. Like, it just said this whole thing is going to be a very And then the final straw for me is you get into the Grail Shrine, and there's literally an immortal dude standing there from medieval times. And
Right.
it's like, and I know people have tried to tell me, oh, dude, you know, the Ark had the archangels coming out of it and people melting and all this. I said, yeah, but that's more like horror kind of stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
Oh, and this John Carter, that's more horror kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is very like, what? Like, wait, people can literally just hang around and be immortal forever and just never be found. Like they just, oh, hey, been waiting for you. I wasn't. Like, what the heck is this all about? Like, I think it really, and again, I don't want to take anything away. The actor who played the Grail Knight, job. He did an excellent job. I'm talking about what does it mean for the franchise? What
I at that point I was starting to struggle with. Okay, because I was thinking of it in terms of just like Raiders, just like the Ark of the Covenant. What does this mean in terms of Judeo-Christian, mythology or whatever? All of that makes sense with the Ark of the Covenant. It doesn't with the Grail. Why? Why is the Grail kept in a shrine by an immortal guardian?
Right.
Is someone ever supposed to find? It's not like it's Excalibur where it's meant to be found by someone someday.
Right.
And if anything, the difference between the Ark of the Covenant Old Testament and the Grail New Testament, Christ was very much do away with all of these artifacts and all that accoutrement. None of that's important.
And also the Grail, aside from the Book of Nicodemus, which is Apocrypha,
right?
Grail is not actually part of the
canon at all. That's right. I mean, literally, we know he must have drunk from a cup, but that's all it was. It was a cup for him to drink wine out of.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the King Arthur story, right? That's probably where a lot of that comes from, right?
I'm sure it was. But therein lies the problem. Again, this kind of is going beyond, the religious,
right?
That iconography doesn't really exist in Christian,
right?
And that's the whole thing. Like, yes, Tim, I would say that Spielberg and Lucas were retconning the character in their head, and what I should say more accurately, they were retconning the intent of the entire franchise in their head as they went along. But that's the other thing, Troy, that you brought up, the Grail versus the Ark and everything like that. There's been this running thing since Indy 4 that, the bad Indiana Jones movies are the ones where the artifact isn't Judeo-Christian. And I'm like, time. The bad artifacts are the ones where they literally are fumbling around making stuff up as they go along.
True.
Because see, the Sivalinga is just as real in Hindu culture as the Ark is in Hebrew mythology.
Right.
There's a pedigree there.
Yeah.
Whereas the Grail becomes this kind of more romantic medieval French creation.
Yes.
Like it's more of that. It's not really from that time period. And
if anything, it's more from the Renaissance than it is from the time of Christ.
Exactly. And so, like, then when you get into, we'll get into Crystal Skull in a minute, but just as an example, then you go from an artifact that is sort of fudged there in Last Crusade and kind of becomes, they square peg the round hole.
Yeah.
To Crystal Skull, the characters and even the writers don't even know what they're looking for at that point. They're like, we're just making it up now. Like, whatever.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and make that pivot then. So we get to, we've already had the situation where we've got, and honestly, when I saw Last Crusade, as much as I loved it, I took them at their word. This is the Last Crusade. This is the last movie. Yep. So if you are going to do a movie where they ride off into the sunset and it's the end, then I guess I don't mind so much the River Phoenix and the Scar and the,
That's the thing. It only works if it's the end.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's kind of sad that this is the end, but I guess this is the end. It was a trilogy, just like Star Wars in my mind at the time. Okay, time to move on. Then we hear about Crystal Skull. And I foolishly having gone through. What was the video game that we had before that? It was
Fate of Atlantis.
Fate of Atlantis, right?
Yes.
And so I thought, oh, this is going to be like that. This is just going to be another story in the pulp tradition.
There have been others. There was the Infernal Machine. That was another Indiana Jones.
Right. So I was like, okay, that's not what this was. It was a continuation. They move it up into the 50s with the Russian Cold War whole thing. Okay, I see the logic there, but now we're aging the character, which is something we didn't do with James Bond. See, and this was also help me out with my dates. This was after Brandon Fraser's The Mummy.
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. This was 08. Fraser's The Mummy was 99.
And I'm sitting here going, why is Harrison Ford still playing this character? Why don't we replace him with Brandon Fraser?
I mean, they won't. See, my working theory on that is that by Last Crusade, they had decided that this was a fun proprietary series where they all as friends get together and make these movies. And so that means that Harrison Ford is somebody they always want to hang out with. So in their own minds, they made him the only Indy that should ever be. And the problem with that is, of course, one, pulp adventure heroes have to be recast like Bond. They need to perpetuate. They need to move on. The next adventure, the next era, the next whatever. You can even look at that, like how many Batmen have there been? How many Zorros have there been? How many Robin Hoods have there been? How many Lara Crofts have there been already? Even though she's only had 3 films, she's already had 2 actresses.
Yeah.
And all the other people that have played her voice. So they if you watch the original trailer for Last Crusade, you'll notice that trailer is not a trailer with the movie. It's a trailer that's highlighting Last Crusade is filming on location now, and they're showing all this fun footage of Spielberg and Ford and Lucas picking it up behind camera and having a good time. And you're like, okay, this is where I think everybody just quietly or unconsciously decided we're never going to do these movies without each other. Like, this is going to be our thing. And it's like, okay, just end it here then. Just let this one play out and end it here, because look at
this is where I think George Lucas is a bad influence on Steven Spielberg, because George does have this tendency to do I don't care if this sells or if anyone likes this, I just want to do my own thing. And I'm sorry, man, once you do something and put it out in the world, it belongs to the world. That's kind of how art works.
Yeah.
And he never got that. And I do feel that Steven Spielberg kind of does. Just look at the response that those two had to their special editions of things. The E.T. reaction and Steven Spielberg going, yeah, maybe that was a bad decision, and putting it out on DVD in both versions. And
Right.
George Lucas like, well, I don't care. It's my film, and I'm doing it the way I intended. And now Greedo shoots first, and let's stuff Jabba in there, and no. It's okay, fine, whatever. But nothing sacred, I guess. I'm just very much the death of the author. But Netter, because we went to see.
Yeah, we went to go see it.
We went to see Crystal Skull together.
Yeah.
And I don't think we really talked much about it. What was your take on it?
It's one of those things where it's like, and you guys have kind of insinuated this already, like they just kind of threw things together, try to see what would stick.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that it's, I think the word is, it's a trope.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want a thing. I can't find the thing. So I'm going to put you in a situation where you have to find the thing for me. Oh, and I'm going to hurt somebody that you love or kill them or something. So you're on borrowed time to find the thing.
You have to find
Otherwise,
the thing,
they die.
No, you're right. I get the formula. But yeah, I also the Russians in place of the Germans and all of that kind of stuff. That's another. Yeah. Okay, fine, whatever. And then, honestly, for for the things that I said about the Grail, in comparison to the previous items, the Crystal Skull that's not even from any kind of mythology. That is just whole cloth BS. I mean, yes, I understand that there are crystal skulls out there that have a following and whatnot, but I don't think there's any serious modern mythology about them and having some sort of origins with aliens and just
wasn't.
Sorry, go ahead, Boomer.
I was going to say, wasn't there a compromise like George Lucas wanted it to be like a 50s sci-fi movie where like
I got that, yeah,
Martians or something, and then Spielberg didn't want to do that, so they made a compromise, and that was the
Lucas kept trying to say, well, because Harrison and Spielberg were adamantly against having aliens in the movie, and George Lucas kept trying to revise it. He's like, no, they're interdimensional beings, and they're like,
aliens are aliens. I don't care where they're from.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing is a mess, and I think the tragedy of Crystal Skull is that here's one aspect too, like the refrigerator scene was in early drafts of this Indy 4, but it didn't fly miles into the air and miles across the desert and land and tumble and stuff. It was literally him jumping into a refrigerator on the ground, and then it dumped over, and then the shock wave of the blast went over the refrigerator, and he was inside. And
that would have seemed more plausible.
Plausible, because he wasn't so close to ground zero as well. It was a little more like he saw it from a distance and was like, oh crap, and he jumped in.
The worst is him coming out of it and the big mushroom cloud looming over him. It's like, this guy is dead.
Yeah, exactly. He should have looked like Smuckers coming out of that refrigerator, but
he should have looked like Linda Hamilton in that dream sequence.
The thing is that if you take that sequence out, you take the weird digital gophers out, or groundhogs or whatever. I don't know why that was the thing. And then,
because it's cute, kids will like it.
It's like, but it's so pointless, and it's so like George Lucas just like digitally masturbating on the film, like just. I need creatures. I need creatures.
And then there's the tree monkeys.
But the other thing is, the other big thing that hobbles this movie is they get so close to a compelling story regarding the origins of civilization that could be tied to real things.
Right.
And they botch that up, and then on top of that, they dump more of those stupid Indies deconstructed continuity elements into the film. Like, now it's not about the father. Now it's about him meeting his own son.
Yeah.
It's like, God, Spielberg, not everything is E.T. Would you leave this?
I know.
Like, it's really a shame, because there was a kernel of an idea there that could have made for a very, very good Raiders style plot, and they blew it.
Scott Knudsen brings up a great point here, drawing the comparison to Call of Cthulhu and how the setting and the time period that it takes place in is kind of crucial. And we've said this about some of our favorite films. The setting, the era, the ambiance becomes a character in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Indiana Jones, as you've continually put it, is a pulp character. He belongs in a pulp setting.
He belongs in a museum.
Yeah. But in a way, it's true. The setting is crucial, and if you move him forward, it ruins it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And something we glossed over, and is probably important on this exact point, is after Last Crusade, I think it was after Last Crusade, that's when we get the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Yes.
Which I enjoyed as a kid, because I definitely saw all the elements from Last Crusade, the father character, the relationship between them, era when he was a Boy Scout and all that kind of stuff. You get the 3 eras: the child, the Boy Scout era, and then the framing element is the older, modern day Indiana Jones with the eye patch.
Right.
That's probably, and I didn't really want to get into this upcoming movie at all, but I will say this about it. Nothing I've heard says he loses his damn eye, even from an alien cat scratching it out. So without that, I don't care what they're saying.
It's definitely been something clever for them to do, and because it's clever, they definitely wouldn't do it.
Spot on. You couldn't have said it better. You're absolutely right.
The moment you think up a good idea, you can be guaranteed corporate Hollywood is never going to do it.
Damn it, that's the problem with YouTube, because I see so many fan theories and, ideas about what the next movie of such and such is going to be, and I'm like, man, that's great. They got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the logical part of my brain says, damn well that means it's never going to happen.
Going to happen. Well, never going to happen. See, I was saying on my Facebook page the other day that, if you could take this franchise back and put it with a studio that actually had, like, whatever studio did Sisu, they should be the ones doing Indiana Jones right now, because they have the edge and the gumption to do those movies the way they would need to be done. And I was like, you know what? It would be so cool, because Fate of Atlantis was such a good indie story, but it was limited by the technology of gaming at the time, so it doesn't have all. But you could make that a live action indie plot, because that actually is really good. And meanwhile, the very first Tomb Raider game was also about Atlantis, and I was just thinking I was like, oh man, because when I was in college, I photoshopped myself a desktop background. It was called Tomb Raiders, and it was just both of them.
I like that. That's great.
Like, wouldn't it be great with all these cinematic universes and all these crossovers and stuff?
Yeah.
If you could plot out like 3 movies each for Indy and Tomb Raider, and then they meet. Both of them do the Atlantis thing. The Fate of Atlantis is both of them at the same time through an Atlantean, whatever. I was just like, because hey, people might say that sounds silly, but look at the crap we've been watching the last few years. Like, it's got to be better than that, right? Like, I'd rather watch Voltron eat breakfast cereal in a movie for an hour and a half than watch what we've been getting.
Well, think about this. If Lara Croft and Indiana Jones were in the same shared universe, okay, maybe Lara Croft went to university and studied archaeology under Indiana Jones, right? And then you've got this dark-haired British adventurer hero chick that could be Kathleen Kennedy self-insert and would just totally ruin it. So there we go.
No, what I was thinking was, you've got this energy source that's in both the games. It's an Atlantean energy source. They both talk about this Atlantean power source. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if at the climax of Indy's 3rd film, he's at the edge of a precipice or whatever, and the Nazi officer, wants the power of Atlantis or whatever. And in the last Tomb Raider movie, you have that confrontation between her and Natla on the precipice with the Atlantean thing.
Yes.
She shoots the Scion, which causes this huge Atlantean energy explosion, this vortex type thing. And right as Indy thinks he's about to be pushed off the thing, he hears this scream. He sees this blonde businesswoman falling off the pit behind him. Where'd she come from? He looks down at his feet, and there are these fingerless gloved hands holding onto the thing, because they were both pushed through this thing when the thing exploded. She's been pulled back in time, and she's figuring it out. Like, it would be the ultimate cliffhanger to this team-up movie. Which,
yes!
Can you...
No, yeah, okay, think about this for a second, right? Instead of all these stupid mid and post-credit scenes and all this bullshit, you've got a scene like that at the denouement of your Indiana Jones film that makes 0 sense.
Yep.
And you're like, and Indy just like the audience is like, what just happened here?
Right.
The following summer, the movie that was filming at the same time in parallel, they released Lara Croft, and you see her side of the story.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm envisioning. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And then you have to wait for the next summer, 2 summers later, to get it is called Tomb Raiders: The Fate of Atlantis. I think it would kick ass. Like, it would be such a good movie.
This is what I'm talking about, though.
What was
This is the
interesting-
fans coming up with these brilliant ideas, and we'll never get anything this good from Hollywood.
The Tomb Raider movies were put out by Paramount.
I know, and Paramount clearly didn't pay attention to how the indie movies were made when they did it. They didn't learn any lessons from what Spielberg and Lucas did well. It was like, oh, those films were garbage.
Look, I understand. I understand that when you are doing something artistic or you're doing a franchise or whatever, you really don't want people saying, "Oh, you're ripping off this or you're ripping off that."
Mm-hmm.
But that has got to be sidelined for the fact that you rip off success. You see what is successful, and then you do that.
Right.
You know? And I just think of all the Star Wars rip-offs that we've seen, all the Indiana Jones rip-offs we've seen and whatnot, and they all have certain elements. None of the good ones.
No.
Just the tropes, the surface level stuff.
The thing is, everyone loves to say that, because we're talking Indiana Jones tonight, right? So, and Boomer just brought up Paramount. It's so important to bring up Paramount Pictures, because everyone says that the second Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movie is the worst one, but I don't think many people have actually seen it, because I don't. First of all, there is no great Tomb Raider movie. They're all crap. All right, let me say that outright. They're all bad.
This is not a shock to me. I follow your videos.
Right, they're all bad. But if you watch the first one, which is garbage, and then you watch the second one, you go, oh, the studio took some frantic notes and replaced the director and the composer and everything else and tried again. And if you watch the way, forget what happens in the movie, forget the whole early 2000s action movie tropes.
Yeah.
Look at the plot structure. They clearly were like, crap, that last movie was esoteric garbage. Watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then let's do that. And so you have her literally on a adventure in the beginning, trying to get this glowy thing that gets stolen from her, like the idol, essentially. Then you have her back at her home, and government agents, this time from England, MI6, not CIA, show up, and they tell her this bad guy is trying to secure not the Ark of the Covenant, but Pandora's box, which is a real thing we've all heard of in mythology. So it resonates. And she explains to them, because they don't know the mythology behind it, just like with him at the chalkboard.
Right.
She explains what Pandora's box is and why it would be dangerous for anybody to get their hands on it and open it and release all that stuff into the world. And it's like, this is actually the superior movie, because it is actually modeled off of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
It learned those lessons. Unfortunately, it made a lot of other missteps in the process. But the actual bones upon which they build the movie are totally Indiana Jones inspired. Like, they're, so, yeah.
Well, and see, I think therein lies the other problem. They are just taking tropes because you got a bunch of corporate executive bigwigs saying, I want that kind of a movie. Copy that. And they're copying too literally. They are transliterating someone else's movie. When a truly good story isn't copying any specific movie, they are going back to the original inspiration for that thing. Right? George Lucas didn't directly copy Flash Gordon. He got elements of Flash Gordon that he wanted in it, but he also looked to the other inspirations of those stories, and Akira Kurosawa and so on and so forth. If you look at Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, for example, there's a reason people keep bringing it up, right? I just watched a video the other day about all the modern songs that whether it's rock or jazz or whatever, that were inspired by Bach. You know? And it really takes someone pointing out, you know, a phrase of music, play it next to a phrase of music, and you go, oh, I hear it now. Or hearing, you know, Sir Paul McCartney say, yeah, you know, I was actually going for this piece from, you know, Bach and, you know, so on and so forth, and I messed it up, but then I went off and did my own thing with it. And it's like, I get it now. There is a reason that those chords, those progressions of music resonate. Same thing. These archetypes of storytelling endure through generations for a reason. Which brings me to this concept of writing for the modern audience.
Right.
If you have to write for the modern audience, then you are writing for only this generation.
Right.
You are not writing something that will last for time immemorial, right? There is a reason that people still study the Greek myths, right? There is a reason that people still read more art, right? And stuff like that.
Yep.
Because these are timeless stories.
Yep.
And then when you get a Star Wars or a Raiders or whatever, after you've seen it and loved it, and you think on it and you analyze it, you go, oh, that's like Arthur, or that's like, you know, this myth or whatever. And you go, oh, I see where that came from. That's why they're timeless.
They're also timeless because they go against whatever the beaten path is in that moment. You know, they're not in the rut. They're forging their own new path for our culture at large. Saying, hey, we're looking at this through a new perspective. Like we're not writing for you where you are right now. We're writing so that you can come discover new horizons and ways of thought, and maybe get out of your own rut at the same time. Like that's what Star Wars was. That's what Superman the movie was. They were things that shook the cobwebs of post-Vietnam malaise out of people and made them realize for a brief moment that, oh, you know what? Things can be of genuine sentiment again. Things can be. But now we've been in this, and again, there's nothing wrong with a good sarcastic movie or an irreverent movie. If I was to say that I didn't approve of sarcasm, I'd be the biggest hypocrite breathing. But there's also
everyone who follows your channel knows exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm sarcastic because I'm so distrustful of people ever allowing genuine sentiment to come back. You know,
right?
I'm sarcastic because I am a genuinely sentimental person that's been beaten up for it my whole life. So, like in the case of the movies, you go through ebbs and flows, and so right now, for example, we needed this 10 years ago. We needed Warner Brothers to have been smart enough 10 years ago to say, you know what, we need Superman in 2013 to do what he did for our country and our culture, what he did in 1978. But they weren't smart enough to do that. They're now too far up their own rear end, and so now they're like, no, he's got to be dark and cynical like everything else.
And I will say this too. You know, there's two movies that I think are the quintessential of their IP, and they were both written by people who were not fans of those IPs, and that's the Richard Donner Superman and the not written by, directed by Nicholas Meyer, Wrath of Khan.
Yep.
Both of them said they were not fans of these characters before, but what did they do? They were professionals. They went and they did the research, and they're like, I get it.
Yeah, they have respect for the material, genuine respect, without having strange levels of encumbering reverence. Like it's, you know, Richard Donner was always, as you know, he was of the opinion that Superman needed to be treated. He needed to be treated with respect, not like a joke.
Right.
And similarly, there's nothing in Wrath of Khan that treats Star Trek like a joke.
Right.
What it does is it shrugs off its orthodoxy a little bit so that you can get back to the character dynamics that you had in the original series. Because as much as the plot of the motion picture is very cerebrally Star Trek. The characters got lost in it. You know, they were flattened out. They were almost antiseptic. Similarly to what happened in the Phantom Menace, where there was so much reverence for the window dressing that is Star Wars.
Yeah.
The characters got stamped down into nothing. You know, they were all just wooden standees.
And you said something that I think is too easy to gloss over. It's so crucial. It's the character development. If you don't care about these characters, not see yourself in those characters, not associate with those characters, but care about those characters. That's the important thing. If you don't care about them, you're not going to care about any of the rest of it. And even further, when you got Nazi faces melting off and you got people rapid aging after drinking from a cup and people's hearts being ripped out, you are willing to suspend your disbelief because you care about the characters that are being affected by this thing. You don't want to see Indiana Jones die, getting his chest ripped out. You don't want to see him kill Short Round. Right. That, you know, they've had such a great relationship through this whole movie. You want to see him break out of it, Indy. You know, come to. And he does. And you're like, yay, you know. Yeah. You care about the relationship with Marion. Mm-hmm. You don't know all the details about the past, but you don't need to. You know,
you know just enough that it establishes their rapport.
Yeah.
Whatever their dynamic is, that's all they need to tell you, right?
You know, and then she turns and she smiles, and you see the little polka dots on her nose, and you're like, oh yes, you know, definitely want to see. And then, you know, the end of that movie, and then of course you come to the second one. It's like, wait, what happened to Karen Allen? Oh, okay, it's a prequel. Okay, never mind.
That's even the thing is, that's even so worthless because the prequel part, like they could have actually, because of the Bond nature of these at first, they could have made that 1937. Right. And that would have actually made more sense because the thing is that he's already seen the power of the Sankara stones, and yet he can't fathom that the Ark can do anything. Like,
it's a continuity error.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Lucas doing that thing he can't help. Oh, I really like shuffling things out of order, so let's make this one like before, and then we'll do this.
Well, and I get it when you look at the whole, you know, Fortune and Glory, kid, Fortune and Glory. That does not work after Return of the Jedi. Or Return of the Jedi. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Excuse. No, it doesn't work after Raiders of... Okay. It doesn't work because now he's like, they don't understand what they've got there. You know, it's like you've lost... I suppose it doesn't really matter how you reverse him. There's some character development lost that doesn't fit with the next movie.
See, the way I looked at it was, if you set it as a sequel to Raiders, you could argue, and I think argue fairly well, that he's so burned by what happened with the Ark that on this next opportunity, it's like, no, you know what? Fortune and Glory, I'm going to make sure that this doesn't get locked up in a warehouse. I'm going to make sure that this gets its just due. I'm not going to let happen to these what happened to that. And that's why he's saying the Fortune and Glory. And so he's kind of being a little more mercenary and a little more, you know, defeated at that point.
And that clip that I played too, you know, where he says, "Welcome home, old boy." You know, it's like, You get a glimpse of somebody who, I'm doing a business transaction here, but I also respect that these are somebody's remains. They've been brought home, and this is where they belong. Just like, that belongs in a museum. You know, that attitude of Indy, you're like, I respect that, you know? And so another reason to root for this heroic character. It's more than just... And then, boy, especially when he saves all the kids and, you know, gets them out of the slavery and blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, that's way more important than whatever else he was doing there, you know? And a couple times when he could have saved himself and Short Round and whatnot, but no, he's got to make sure everybody gets out, you know? I mean... You know, unlike a certain Man of Steel that just lets a whole city die, you know, so he can fight his fight. Sorry, I was going to keep it positive. Sorry, guys.
No, but that 2013 Man of Steel is a garbage movie, and the
Yep.
entire Snyderverse, including this Flash movie, will be thrown onto the ash heap of history. Mark my words, they're all awful. Anyway, back to the Temple of Doom thing. Yeah, but that moment where he hears the kids crying out, as he's getting the stones,
Yeah.
he realizes, because that, to me, that could be interpreted as his cynicism after what happened, if we're assuming it's 1937 and not 1935.
Sure.
Cynicism about the Ark dissipates very quickly because he's always the guy that's going to do the right thing. He
Right.
was that in Raiders, he's going to be that here. And
Yeah.
so it just becomes like because afterwards, see, he's getting the stones out of there because the bad guys are going to use them for ill anyway. And then what does he say to Willie at the end? She's like, you could have kept it. He's like, nah, to just collect dust in some, museum. He's like, besides, the village needs it and all that kind of stuff. And he's not about that at that point. He's about saving those kids. And that's the other thing that I really loved about Temple of Doom, is that it stands alone in the sense of, in all the other movies, it's Indy saving himself and a few of his friends. Whereas in Temple of Doom, the stakes were a lot higher. Like it was, an entire village worth of children. Like,
What was I remember the village elder in that movie was saying, "Oh, you've come to," and he doesn't believe them. Like, "Oh, you're the savior," and he's like, "Yeah, that's not who I am." But he's
Right.
he ends up being what they said he was going
Exactly, because
Yeah.
they saw it in him.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if he didn't see it in himself. And this is something else that I don't hear enough people talk about. Real world archaeologists kind of have that attitude that Indy did in that second movie, where yes, I want to learn, I want to uncover, I want to discover, but having the thing and bringing it back with me, at least modern day archaeologists, that's not so important to them.
Right.
If they could take pictures of it in the ground, learn what they need to do, and then preserve it, they'd be happy to do that. And especially with these artifacts where it is part of someone's modern current culture, tell me about it. Let me learn everything I need to learn from your oral tradition and all that. That's fine. And I'll leave it here. Like, can I take pictures?
Sure.
Whatever. It's that same kind of attitude he seems to have. It's like the dynamic of what this thing is in history, even modern history, is important. That's all I'm trying to learn as an archaeologist.
Yeah.
It's not about bringing it which is probably pretty progressive for someone in the 1930s, because from the late 1800s up to the 30s, it was about, I got to get that dinosaur bone and bring it back to get my name in the books.
Yep.
Disney had some movies about that too. One of our dinosaurs is missing and so forth.
Right.
That's a deep cut. How many of y'all remember that movie? Probably not even on D- these days, because that stuff isn't important anymore. But real quick, I want to say hi to Clobberin' Times, who, if not for Clobberin' Times, I may not have had the nerve to invite you on my channel in the first place. In a way, he indirectly kind of introduced us. So.
Oh yeah, Mike's the perfect guy to talk to about me. He knows everything about me.
He's the one that said, "Oh, you should reach out to him. He's a good guy." I know he's a good guy, but he's got a big channel, and he wouldn't want to talk to his little channel and whatnot.
No.
And he pushed me so, and so I'm glad that after watching you guys on Wednesday, check out Clobberin' Time's stream from Wednesday for more from Mike on these exact topics, because. Well, Mike and Mike. It was a Mike and Mike night, right?
Yeah, Michael is basically the most common name of any Gen X male. It's crazy.
I suppose. But my best friend in grade school was Michael too. Mm-hmm. But some of the same stories, even though it wasn't meant to be an Indiana Jones night, he covers some of the same ground. But I'm glad we covered different ground.
Sure.
So I didn't want you to feel like you were repeating yourself. And I know, leading up to this new movie, you're probably going to be the YouTuber in major demand, because you are the subject matter expert on this particular topic. But real quick, one more comment, because it's directed at you. The look on his face when the light from the mini cart shines on his face and Indy unleashes hell. Okay.
Yeah, you remember that shot in Temple of Doom, where the after he gets the stones back and he snaps out of it.
Oh yeah.
And then
It's the same kind of story beat that you get in far more underlined in Last Crusade when he's reaching for the Grail. I can reach it. I can almost reach it. And
right.
You know what? You can say whatever you want about that movie. Again, I can forgive a lot of things because of the character development there and that interplay with his father there.
If
you
it's
know,
the last Indiana Jones movie like it should have been, then it's just fine. I've never said anything else.
I tear up at that bit because we've established that relationship between the father and son.
Right.
The father is just all about that Grail. It's been his life's work, right? And Indy has been, despite what he even himself realizes, wants to be appreciated by his father, you know? And so when he's reaching for that Grail, it's not about the Grail, it's about his father. It's about, I got to get that for you because I know it's so important to you.
Right.
And the father's saying, you are more important to me, son.
Yeah.
Let it go. I am willing to let go everything I seem to have ever cared about in my life because you.
Right.
Damn it! I'm starting to tear up just talking about this.
No, it was an excellent ending to this because once you deconstruct the pulp hero, it's hard to move forward. Like you that's it. But that's another reason we need to be angry at 4 and 5 because 4 and 5 also undermine 3.
Yeah. And I could forgive everything about 3 if that was the last movie, and unfortunately,
that's
it's not.
Thing. If it's the last movie, there's really nothing wrong with that film. It's a really great trilogy, but now it's compromised, not because of what these others contextually do to it. It's
right.
Yeah.
I get you. So I don't want to go out on a negative note, but I guess it would be ridiculous if we didn't at least touch on the upcoming film.
Okay.
But I don't know what the hell I want to say about it that everyone else hasn't already. You have a video that people can check out that isn't directly about the upcoming Indiana Jones film, but you do touch on it as you talk about some trends that we see in movies these days. Why now? Why this? Why, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with there's this prevailing attitude that if I didn't like something, that means it must be offensive or it must be out to get me. And therefore it must be toxic and therefore it must be bad wholesale and we must get rid of it. Yeah. And right now what we're seeing in entertainment is a backlash where you're going, okay, movies like the 70s Bond films, which is the example I use. Some people don't like those through today's lens, and they see them as problematic, and they see them as this and that. And it's like the Bond films of the 70s weren't out to get anybody. They weren't to hurt or harm anyone. They weren't out to denigrate anybody. They were literally trying to just entertain as many people as possible, you know, with every summer or whatever it was. Like they were not, and what I'm saying with that is, but when you look at what's led up to Indy 5, when you look at what they did to Star Trek, what they've done to all the characters in Star Wars, what they did to Doctor Who as far as the retconning of the origin. Yeah. I've maintained a million times that it's not the gender swap that bothered me on that. It's the retconning of the character's origins. Yep. A few episodes in that wrecked the whole foundation of the story. When you look at all of that in context, and then you say, and now here's Indy 5, and look how this is rolling out, naturally, people are going to kind of feel backed into a corner if they're not, you know, because what they've also said, oh, and I'm sorry, the last one I forgot to mention, the big one is what they did to James Bond. Because you sit back and you go, wait, so, okay, I don't want to go see Quantumania, and I'm not enjoying Thor 4, and I don't know what you guys have done with Indiana Jones, but you guys have also told me, sorry, there aren't going to be any more Die Hard. There aren't going to be any more Lethal Weapons. Oh, and your James Bond guy, we've changed him too. Like, all of that was bad. And like,
So
really bad, or was it just something that you didn't like?
yeah.
You know?
So two things that I don't hear enough people saying. They get at it, but I don't think they spend enough time focusing on it. First, we know it's all bullshit, right? Because don't hide behind your virtues,
Right.
and try to say, well, you don't like women, you don't like people of color, you don't like whatever. Bullshit. Okay? When we can say, look, we loved Leia, we loved Ripley, we loved, go through the list, okay? What we don't like is not the women, it's not,
Right.
the race of the character, it's bad writing. You don't get to denigrate me
Right.
and come up with these bullshit reasons why I don't like it. I am telling you why I don't like it. And if you can't answer for that, that's on you as a writer.
Yeah. And that's the real tragedy, specifically regarding the Pulp Adventure hero, because the Pulp Adventure character, how do I put this? I talked about it on Clobbering Times a little bit, but I think it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
Is that the Pulp Adventure character? I'll just say it outright. Nobody's paying attention to this in the din of social media right now. The Pulp Adventure character, when done correctly, transcends identity politics.
Yes.
Because I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, nor can I relate to a 19th century Spanish aristocrat living in California who becomes a vigilante.
Right.
However, when I'm watching a Pulp Adventure hero called Zorro, who happens to be those things, I don't think about how I can or can't relate to that character. Pulp Adventure heroes you don't relate to, you want to be them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't matter who they are. So
Yeah.
like I've never felt like I couldn't relate. When I say relate, it's sorry, I'm using the wrong word. I never felt like I didn't want to be Lara Croft because she was a woman.
Right.
I don't care about the fact that she's a woman. I love the fact that she's awesome. And look, I'd trade up tomorrow and be Lara Croft if you told me, yeah, cross your fingers and you'll be Lara Croft like that. I'd be like, cool. Like, I don't like same with Shaft or Dirty Harry or all of those characters. It's the Pulp
Alita.
What's
I'm
that?
thinking of Alita.
yeah.
Thinking of a recent example. Yeah.
They all transcend. They're not about their physical identity. They're not about that. Yes, some of their landscape defines what they have to do in their world.
Right.
So, like, Shaft is a cop in the 70s in the big city, right? Okay, that defines his space, right? That defines what he has to do. But nobody watching those movies sat back and went, yeah, I'm not that thrilled about this. Like, who doesn't want to be a sophisticated British agent with an Aston Martin?
Right.
Who doesn't want to be that? And yet somehow they have managed, with Indiana Jones in the gaming side of things, with Tomb Raider, sadly, with James Bond and a number of others. And I don't. You'll notice I'm not talking about the Star Wars characters in this, because Star Wars is an opera. It is not Pulp Adventure. It has art.
Right.
Yep.
So we're putting that over here. These other characters, though, they have all been deconstructed to the point that they have managed to make them unappealing.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did you have to really try hard to achieve that? Like,
well, it's this literalism that people have today. And Jordan Peterson has talked about this. Mm-hmm. When you start going, well, I can't relate to that character because they're a different color than me, a different gender than me, different religion than me, different whatever, you eventually break this intersectionalism down to, I can't understand this guy because he's not a bald, half Italian, 50-year-old man with a beard. He's not me, so I can't relate to him. Well, that problem is not the writers of this film. That's you.
Right.
Because you've lost your ability to imagine.
Yeah.
You know? That is your failing. Because I've been able to understand a Kryptonian sent to Earth, alien from another planet with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men that I will never be.
Right.
You know? And I was able to enjoy a woman on a spaceship who's basically a space trucker trying to stay alive being attacked by aliens.
Yep.
You know, I didn't need to you know, all...
Yeah. That's the crazy part, and the thing is that I want more of those characters, not less.
Yes.
I don't care for a minute because I've already lived my whole life, thankfully, that with these characters who are all from varied backgrounds, like varied ethnicities, varied genders, varied backgrounds, and I've loved them all. Pulp adventure characters, I've loved all of them.
Yeah.
So I want to see more, which means I'm not going to be opposed if they can figure if Hollywood can finally figure its shit out and get its head out of its ass. I would love to see more characters, pulp adventure characters.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're gay. I don't care if they're a different race. What I care about is the genre. I want the genre with characters that are so cool. I just want to be them. Like I don't you know what I mean? Like,
look, you bring up gay. There's a very important point. There is people that I know in the gay community going, you know what I'd like to see? Is I'd like to see a character set in the 30s who's gay, but he's got to be closeted because of that history that goes with it. What a great story that would be, and I would enjoy the hell out of that character, and people would learn a thing or two about the history of the gay community, but I guess we can't do that shit anymore because modern audience.
Well, I was talking to, I had a great conversation with a subscriber to my channel. I met him in person at Joe Fest. His name was V. Conley. Great guy, real smart as a whip.
Yeah.
He and I were talking about this very subject, and I was talking with him. I said, the tragedy of, and this is my perspective, obviously, but he and I were kind of, he was nodding, like he was like, yes, this is what my girlfriend and I've been talking about, for the last week. The tragedy of The Little Mermaid, for example, is not what's going on in the outrageous sphere over here.
Yeah.
The tragedy of it is it is the latest chapter in a long line of pointless, mediocre remakes of things that have already been made. And the point I made to him was everything they're doing with that says these new stories that may be collecting dust on shelves, we don't think they're bankable. So we're going to put out the 50th Xerox of this tired story. And we're going to throw you guys, you new actors, into it. So even though this is your day to shine, your era to shine and finally be in front of cameras, we're not going to give you the best scripts. We're going to give you these old, tired, recycled scripts. Yeah. What does that mean? And I told him, I said, somewhere out there, and I hope the audience can follow me on this because I firmly believe it. Somewhere out there is, for example, an LGBTQ or gay actor who could be the gay thespian equivalent of a Harrison Ford. In other words, they could have a career that's as successful as Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in today's corporate Hollywood, there will be no Star Wars to give him a Han Solo role that will make him or her or they an actor of that magnitude, because they're not making original things anymore that have their own identities.
Exactly. It's and I've heard so many people in the black community, the gay community, and so forth that are intelligent enough to say and self-aware enough to say, I don't want to be tokenized.
Right.
I don't want a black Ariel. I want a black
new character.
Something from my
or not even like something like, it doesn't even have to be historical or even an old myth that's from the. It could literally be like a Star Wars.
Sure. A new character that happens to be black, or gay, or female, or whatever.
I mean, when I say a Star Wars, is I don't mean a Star Wars movie. I mean a movie that comes out that's an original idea that has
a new IP.
Yes.
Because Star Wars wasn't Star Wars before Star Wars.
Exactly. A Star Wars moment is what I'm referring to. We
yes.
don't get Star Wars moments anymore.
Right.
That means that these breakout roles for all of these new people coming onto the scene that finally have a chance to be in front of the camera, they won't get those chances either because Hollywood won't bank on anything new.
Yeah.
And that is the tragedy of it. That is
but some of the best films were not big Hollywood films. They were independent. Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Nobody from Hollywood wanted to bank on Star Wars.
Right. And then and then the same studio didn't want to bank on Raiders.
Right.
Somewhere else.
Right. And so my thought is when you come along and you go, well, I want, people that look like me. Okay, go make that movie.
Right.
Go ahead, do it.
Right.
No one's stopping you. That's
Hollywood is stopping them. They're not funding that stuff.
That's fine. Hollywood didn't fund
right.
Star Wars and
right.
Raiders and stuff.
Yeah.
Go make it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what you say in the toy area. Mm-hmm. The fans are making the best products, right?
Yeah.
Well, the independent films are making, have always been the best films.
Best movie I've seen in 5 years is Sisu. Best movie I've seen in 5 years.
And I have had this conversation with Tom Conkle, who's trying to make a sci-fi film right now. I'm like, you know what? This is the future of films because it's the past of films too.
Right.
It's always been true and it's always going to be true. The
right.
corporatized Hollywood film mm-hmm. is never going to be the great film. It's always
right.
going to be the independent voice that said, screw you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put the credits, at the end of my film, and the beginning of my film is going to be an opening crawl. And you don't like it? Screw you.
Right.
That's what it is. And now I'm seeing another paradigm shift as we start talking about streaming, as we look at YouTube and stuff like mm-hmm. that. And I see people going, hey, this is my opportunity to make my thing, mm-hmm. And guys, I just brought up Tom Conkle. Go check out The Real Deal, REEL, Real Deal with Tom Conkle on YouTube. He's taking, IPs like Flash Gordon, things that are in the public domain, and doing very cheeky, silly little things with them yep. in the style of, the radio dramas. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is great stuff. And he's bringing great talent. The noir films,
Trouble is My Business.
Trouble is My Business.
Great film.
Great film that he did on a shoestring budget. Didn't even realize mm-hmm. that he basically did all of that in front of green screens. You can't tell because it's black and white and it's done so brilliantly. Mm-hmm. That kind of talent is out there, and it's killing it without big budgets. Meanwhile, you got Disney throwing billions of dollars into franchises and not seeing a return on that investment.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I disagree with anyone who tells me Disney is too big to fail.
Oh,
because you know what? The Titanic was too big to sink, and Pan Am was too big to fail, and Enron was too big to fail. And I can go on all night, guys. Mm-hmm. History tells me no such thing as too big to fail. But you know what? You want to keep saying that? Fine. Those who make declarative statements end up looking ridiculous in the retrospect.
Yep.
As I paraphrase Quentin Tarantino and so many others before him. It's... Sorry, guys.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Right. And ironically, that line itself is an absolute.
Yeah. Which is why the prequels suck. Anyway.
Or are brilliant, depending on how you look at that. If George Lucas meant that, if he was being intentionally ironic with that line,
does he?
Yeah, maybe I'm giving him a little too much credit, but there is that possibility. And if he's smart, he'll go back and say, "Yeah, I meant that." You know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just like he always meant for Jedi's to have purple lightsabers, right?
Well, no, he intended them to all be yellow.
Interesting. Okay.
That's another one. Check out Michael French's video, RetroBlasting, Don't Eat the Yellow Lightsaber.
Yeah.
That one, I swear, I still go back and rewatch that and I laugh because I'm like, as a kid, oh, you point out things in that video that I noticed as a kid. The packaging of, the Obi-Wan with the yellow lightsaber, and I'm like, but he's got a blue one, and it's blue in the movie, and
Right.
and I got that blow up yellow lightsaber and the picture of Luke, but his is blue and it's yellow on the package, and we never actually in canon see a yellow lightsaber until, eventually in the EU, and then Dave Filoni, fuck you, Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Just don't get me wrong. He's done some good things.
Sure.
The Clone Wars, in my opinion, those cartoons, fill in the story that should have been in the prequel films and wasn't.
Sure.
But I shouldn't have to go see those to appreciate.
They are shoring up, though, movies that are rather unwatchable. Like,
Yeah.
you could almost...
Just like we all say about Marvel, I shouldn't have to do the homework to enjoy the movies.
No, you could almost just watch the Clone Wars show without those movies and get everything you needed to then
Especially when you get to the end of Clone Wars and it's taking place contemporaneously with Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
And you're like, I could just basically see the important story plots of that here. I don't need to see that movie,
Right. Right.
But actually, part of me almost wants there to be an animated version of those films spliced up within the Clone Wars, to be honest with you.
Sure.
That
And
would
that's
almost
one of the great mysteries of the 80s is why was there never a Saturday morning cartoon or afternoon cartoon for Indiana Jones? You would have thought that franchise was a shoo-in
Right.
for an episodic cartoon show.
Right. Well,
comic book series, I think, which maybe they could have adapted that. I don't know. But
yeah, and there was also the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which was almost a nod in that direction. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Michael. We didn't
It wasn't
actually.
the adult version of Indy. It was a kid.
That's the other thing, especially when you got George Lucas involved, who was like, "Oh, we got to make toys for the kids and Ewoks," and say what you want about it. That's kind of why the films did so well, because they got the kids. Honestly, that's why McDonald's is so good today, because of Ronald McDonald and the Fry Guys. Just saying.
Yeah.
That's why He-Man is so popular, because it was toys first, then cartoons.
Yeah.
Just saying. G.I. Joe, same thing.
Yep.
G.I. Joe was a toy before it was a cartoon.
Yep.
And Superpowers collection, the toys, there was the only reason those comic books Superpowers existed was because of the toys. We need to retroactively explain away why these toys exist. So I'm just, I'm saying there's nothing wrong with the marketing as long as it goes hand in hand with the entertainment.
Sure.
And gives the kids the opportunity to take those toys and make their own stories, which is exactly what we did with the Star Wars toys and G.I. Joe. And then you'd look at the comics and go, oh yeah, it's kind of like what I was doing too with my stories in my head when I was playing with those toys, so storytelling. Just get back to the storytelling and everything else kind of falls back into place. Just saying. But anyway, I know we're preaching to the choir. Is there anything that you want to say about Indiana Jones that we didn't cover tonight? Or that you haven't already covered on another stream or on your channel that you're just thinking, that needs to get out? Because you did that a couple times tonight.
I would just like to say that Raiders of the Lost Ark it's one of a kind. It is an extremely both important film in cinematic history, but it's also I wish I could distill my thoughts so quickly into one. It was inspired by a lot, but it then inspired so much. And it's done so perfectly with an edge to it, and it has. If you go and you really look at the movie and you look at what the script was containing before the final edit all took place, it's a movie that straddles two worlds. It was developed with people who were already making movies and coming out of the mid to late 70s, and they infused that movie with a lot of sort of 70s reflexes that they then dialed back in the edit. So you've still got a movie that's very serious, but it has vestiges of even more serious stuff, like Indy's problem with alcohol, Indy's dubious relationship with Marion, past and stuff like that. Indy's dubious relationship with his own students that got actively cut out of the movie and everything like that. So all of that stuff, and while those were good decisions to make, what's left over that's still in the final edit of the film gives that movie a very credible reality. It gives that movie a very a straight tone. In other words, there is some humor in the movie, but it's situational humor. It's not forced humor. The only moments of forced humor that they were putting into the movie, interestingly, got cut out with the other stuff I was just referring to. So Spielberg and Lucas seemed to have this kind of, they were moving into the kind of 80s quippy kind of mentality, but they weren't quite there yet because their 70s brains were still working. They were like, okay, as much as we're rethinking in the edit this whole thing about Indy kind of having a relationship with some of his students on the side, and as much as we're rethinking some of the inferences about his relationship with Marion, and as much as we're rethinking not over-indexing on his alcohol problem in the edit, we also probably want to take that goofy moment out with the fight with the swordsman. Because the swordsman like helps a butcher cut his butcher meat at his stand because Indy dodges out of the way, and they obviously cut the whole fight out because Harrison Ford had dysentery. But the point in saying all that is these were literal close shaves. Like, they were all things where their minds were working properly to create this movie that had the perfect quest item, which was rooted in all of our collective histories, how far back it goes. It's mysterious. People are still searching for it to this day. There's this intrigue around it. And then the ending of the film, because the ending of the film builds tension and suspense and intrigue perfectly. And then it has real violence and stakes in it with a very, very dark set of villains. And then you've got perfectly executed action sequences, perfectly paced plot and tone and structure, and then you get to the end, and in the end it's not enough, in the end it would have been enough for the government to just take it from him. But then to see where it ends up in this warehouse, and that one shot inspired the entire X-Files franchise. That one shot inspired all of that. So you're looking at a movie that stands alone, because then when they move on to Temple of Doom, even though I find that I hold that movie in very high esteem, I think it's smarter than people give it credit for. Lucas and Spielberg were already changing the paradigm. They were like, okay, let's not call them Raiders films like we thought. It's not going to be Raiders of the Temple of Doom. We're going to call this Indiana Jones and the Temple of something. And let's get some more humor in here, because this equally dark and esoteric story, as dark and esoteric as the Ark of the Covenant was, we're kind of let's throw some humor in there with the monkey brains and the dinner and Willie and the this and the that, and let's kind of have some more jokes, and Willie's lifting a bat up around the campfire and stuff. Let's do all that to kind of back off some of this stuff. So Raiders is Raiders is both, like, Temple of Doom has things in it that are brave,
Yeah.
but Raiders is the one that has the clearest vision,
Yeah.
and the best execution. And
So
yeah.
I want to draw, because you bring that up, I want to underscore that with the comparison with the construction process of Star Wars, where there was a lot of stuff that got cut out and it's better for it.
Yeah.
The editing, the execution ultimately makes it a masterpiece. Honestly, the elements that are cut out but still hinted at in Raiders makes it a movie that is great for kids.
Yep.
Like my mother thought, if they don't catch it, it goes over their head, no harm, no foul. But then it's got the rewatchability that as an adult you go, whoa, didn't catch that before. There's something there. There's storyline there that isn't immediately there implied, and that's good storytelling. Less is more.
Yep.
And that's always a fine line that a good writer, and honestly, didn't notice. I was yesterday years old when I realized how much transgenderism there is in Alien. I'm sorry, Alien 2, the aliens. And it's overt, it's there, because it's in the background shot and the biography of the character and stuff. And I'm like, didn't catch that.
Right.
A lot of people did, though. A lot of people have known that dug into that longer than I have. And now everyone thinks it's so stunning and brave to talk about transgendered characters. Yeah, well, sorry. Aliens beat you to it a long time ago.
Right.
And actually, if you want to really get into the sci-fi, there's,
Science fiction is, as we know, where you can bravely talk about ideas that the rest of the culture isn't ready to discuss.
Yeah, that's the point of science fiction.
Right, because traditionally, people who aren't ready to discuss things in an open and way typically can't even, they're not smart enough to even see an analogy in a science fiction show.
Yeah. And that's why now when, they're very inelegantly covering these things in Star Trek, people are going, well, no, we're way past that. We dealt with all of that in Star Trek back in the 80s. We're again, it's Santayana. Those who can't remember the past are destined to repeat it. You're trying to reinvent the wheel. We've already invented that wheel, and now we're on to, Maseratis. So,
Yep.
We're laughing at you, and you think we're phobes and whatever. No, we don't care about those things anymore. Those things don't matter anymore.
Right.
But you got to fight the same battles all over again. Congratulations.
And that's the whole thing, is that we're talking about, we want the movie industry to be brave again. We want it to take risks again. We want it to find original stories
and
again.
that means not fighting the same battles over again. Find new things to cover.
Exactly. And you can look no further. There's no better example than Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it's revered. I can't even begin to tell you how many filmmakers claim today that they were inspired to be filmmakers by Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars almost gets like a concessionary mention. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark is the movie for filmmakers.
I mentioned Brandon Fraser and The Mummy, saying I had wished that Brandon Fraser had, taken this role, but in a way he kind of did.
Right.
They clearly were homaging, and drawing directly from.
And I'm going to say something controversial here, but I've studied all the behind-the-scenes footage for decades, and I believe I'm safe in saying this, and I can defend it. I'll fight anyone. One of the reasons Raiders of the Lost Ark is also so good is because it is the film in the series that Steven Spielberg was the most professionally detached from, in the sense that he took it on. When I say professionally detached, he was making some decisions. He was paying attention. He was telling George, pull back on this.
Right.
Do this. But he was coming off of 1941. He had a flop on his hands. He needed a win.
Yeah.
But it's in the footage. This isn't rumor. You can watch the making of the movie back then. And you see him saying to the production designers while they're walking the streets of Tunisia, he's like, look, if Karen Allen's hair gets in her face in a take, we're not going to redo it. This isn't what we're doing. This isn't Close Encounters or Jaws. And I'm like, wow. So you really are just doing a job for a friend. And if you look at the way he talks about it, it was the only one that he even talks about in the making of from the 80s. He talks about how he just wants to leave. He doesn't even want to get the last shot.
Yeah.
He wants out of there. He hates it. He wants to go. The other films, I don't even think he really wanted to make. The only reason he made Temple of Doom, I think, was because he really liked Kate Capshaw. And the only reason
You might be right, yeah.
The only reason he made Last Crusade was because he always wanted to do a Bond film, and he really wanted to work with Sean Connery. So these are all, I think, very fair suppositions to make, because you know that he said on camera, I don't want to make Indy 4. And rightly so. I'm doing it for my friend George. He's kind of guilted me into doing it.
But then that begs the question, why does George want to do it? And see, that comes back to almost the same point with him. When he's kind of like when you see Star Wars and when you see when you see Raiders of the Lost Ark, okay, you're seeing the purist. Mm-hmm. You're seeing them doing it right, and sometimes that's because they are a little reserved when they need to be. They take the chances they need to. By the time they've got the confidence, they start to get the attitude, and then no one can talk them out of a bad decision. And now it's whatever I want to do, and they start doing the Filoni thing, where it's my characters that I want to do my whatever. And no one can tell you otherwise. And you see what happens. You kind of see it in Return of the Jedi. You definitely see it in the prequels, you know. And we see it ridiculously in the modern era of Disney, where they have zero attachment to these characters, and now they really can do whatever the hell they want, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's time for somebody to get back. We need the adult in the room to say, there is a way movies should be made. There are ways you innovate, and there's ways you don't. Mm-hmm. There are things that need to happen for people to care about these characters, and then there's things where you can go out on a limb a little bit.
Yep.
And we don't have near enough of that anymore, and I think that's the problem. And that's why sometimes you should maybe end it. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe after Return of the Jedi was the place to end Star Wars. Maybe after
100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you had to do Last Crusade was the place to end Indy.
Right.
You know?
And that's the tragedy of it, is because they originally saw that as their version of Bond.
Yeah.
But then they immediately started retconning their own headspace on it, because Indy is a pulp adventure hero.
Yep.
He should be perpetual and be able to go on like Bond.
One of the things that, and I don't want to get off on a Bond tangent, maybe we'll do a Bond night one night if you want to come back, because I know he's eager for it. We've talked about this before. Talking about how we had hoped that when Casino Royale came out, it was, you know what, if they're going to reboot this, let's just see it get away from the tropes.
Right.
Maybe homage the tropes a little, but get back to the pulp. Get back to the original stories, the way Ian Fleming did it. We almost felt like that was the case with the first movie. After that, it just fell apart.
Yeah.
I reread Casino Royale just this past week, and I'm going to watch the movie again soon because I want to see how closely it followed and where it deviated. Mm-hmm. But the Craig films, in my opinion, fell off the rails with Spectre, and
absolutely the biggest. I think one of the biggest failings, what would have made Casino Royale much better, that they failed on. They decided to make it modern day. It's like no, just like somebody in the chat said about Indy moving into the 50s and you know, moving forward, the setting is as much a part of it as anything. Mm-hmm. The same thing is true of Bond. It's got to be set in the Cold War. Yeah. And I think the Cold War story would be a great one for right now that people would love, especially if you get some of the history right. Man, you dig into the history. You know that James Bond is a composite character of real people. that Ian Fleming knew.
Yep.
And a little bit himself too, actually.
Yep.
And that is incredibly interesting. Dig into that. You know, we need a Nicholas Meyer or a Richard Donner that'll go, I get what this is, and then dig into what it's supposed to be, not just the source material, but at least adapt those books. We need who's the one that did the Lord of the Rings? Peter Jackson. We need a Peter Jackson type to do Bond. You know, if you wanna bring Bond back, if you want to save him.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that somebody does because someone owns that property and wants to make money. I think people still want to make money. Yeah, that's exactly the right reaction, Michael. I'm not entirely sure that's the case anymore. All right, I don't want to go out on a down note. Let's just cap it off by saying we love Indiana Jones as we do love so many of our franchise, and like Boomer started on Geeky Geezers on Sunday, we always want to at least start out with some sort of remembering the good old days because because of the good part of the good old days.
Right.
It's not just old; it's the good, and we want to remember that, and that's why we're geeks, is because of the things that we loved and remember. And
Sure.
maybe someone will bring about again. I've got high hopes for Dune after seeing the finally a good solid adaptation of the first half of the first book. Let's see how that goes. So anyway, Michael, what have you? I know this is a rhetorical question for me, but for the people listening, what have you got coming up in the near future?
I have a video where I need to talk about this guy right here, which is
yes.
It is a fan-made. I made it myself, but it was a fan-designed Last Crusade tank.
Yeah.
That I need to talk about because it is just.
I saw the chaos of you starting that on your Patreon.
It was a saga to get it made and get all the right parts, and then I had to refine.
Literally buying the bricks individually because this is a custom job.
Yes. So I'm going to be doing a video about that as part of this whole Indiana Jones summer that we've got going on, although I doubt that movie will be in theaters very long. And then after that, or at the same time, I am working on that custom freeze chamber playset update so that I can get that done. There's a thought piece I'm working on. I'm working on a Thundercats 2-part retrospective called Redux because we had to pull the original one down years ago because Warner Brothers. I got a lot in the hopper. I got a lot.
I know you do. I know you do.
I have more ideas than I have time on this planet. So.
I get you. And so, guys, I know that most of y'all are, if you're not here specifically because of Michael tonight, you are my regulars who, are certainly subscribed to him because I say it like every other week, how many times I reference him in my videos. But I did want to quickly ask you that, which is probably not fair because I should wait for you to put the video out. But that freeze chamber, is the project done and ready to, just go buy the thing, or
no? The project is done. I have the whole thing. What I'm trying to do now, since it's a prototype, is I'm trying to shore it up, and it's an amazing Herculean construct. She's done an amazing job, but I just want it to be everything it can be for the camera, as far as I want to make sure all those railings are straight.
And then when we see it and get all excited, we can put in orders and stuff. And
I'm hoping so. I'm not part of this project and make no money off of it. Just all the talent.
I know. Yeah.
Profits of Joe Dickerson, but
right.
But I want to show the whole thing because it's pretty cool.
Problem is that I've been looking forward to it and wanting to do that, but just about I don't know, less than 6 months ago, and I've got a video up about it, and a lot of my regulars know about it already. Somebody, this Hole in the Ground Productions, who does a lot of diorama pieces and whatnot. I've been getting little one-offs over the years from him. Did a Kickstarter, Indiegogo or something. I don't remember, some kind of crowdfund for the entire cantina.
Oh, okay.
And because I'd already bought like the bar and the accoutrement of the bar and some of the other stuff that he already had up, I just bought the segments that I needed, and I just bought it. Boom, the whole thing. And now I'm putting it together, and I'm going to start doing videos about the bits that I'm doing. But I'm kind of all in on that, and I don't think it's going to be... Well, I'm sure Netter's not going to let me now go and get the...
You got to pick one locale when it comes
and finish it before I go on to the next one.
Or you might... Well, in my case, I just have room for the one. Like, meaning I can't go back and get Joe Dickerson's new design for the blockade runner. He's got a blockade runner now for years. It's huge, it's amazing, it's impressive. I got no room for it. There's nowhere I can put it. So I'm glad that I know that my ultimate interest is Empire Strikes Back, and within Empire Strikes Back, it's Bespin, Cloud City, all that stuff. Like, and now I finally have that
dude, for all that I pick on you about now you're starting to get into the Lego, and now you're never going to stop, and you're going to get 5 more of this play set and so forth. I'm that bad with this. I'm doing the Cantina. I am somehow going to do, if not Dickerson's, something with the freeze chamber, and I am going to completely do a full-on Death Star playset that's as tall as an 8-foot bookshelf with the levels, inspired by the old Kenner one.
Right.
But with the levels being like screen accurate type stuff.
Right. And that's the only reason that I'm doing Indiana Jones in Lego now is because when Hasbro announced their product offerings for this new round of Indiana Jones stuff, it was apparent that it's not going to be anything close to even what they did in 08-09.
Yeah.
Which is the closest we ever got to an action figure world build. I would have preferred an action figure world build.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, they're not going to do that anywhere close, especially because they're going 6-inch. So forget that crap. I'm going to go back and spend my money getting the Lego sets I passed over in 08-09 that made a lot of the stuff that even Hasbro didn't make in 08-09, and build out the rest of it. So my Star Wars will be in vintage Kenner with some custom pieces from Joe Dickerson, and my Indiana Jones will be in Lego with some custom pieces from Fandom.
Yeah. I was thinking about that because you said that in a previous video, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, and I Star Wars is my thing. I never got into the Raiders toys, indie toys, but I do get how frustrating it would be if you have like a few and then you can't get all the other characters. At least with Star Wars, we've had from the original 70s releases up to the vintage collection now and so forth, we can get almost every character that's ever been seen in a background shot in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And if there isn't already a playset out there,
Tangori.
Well, Tungori is nice because I don't have to give my money directly to Hasbro. I could get the hard to find ones on the relative cheap, and I don't know. Tim at Boss Bounty claims that they're like seconds or off market or something that couldn't be sold. I've never once seen anything wrong with the toys that wasn't already a design flaw from Hasbro.
Yeah.
Got a video about some of those R2 units that are just bass backwards. But anyway, sorry. Beside the point. So I get that. At least with the figures, when you have all the figures, then you can get custom built play sets. You can get custom built ships and stuff and whatnot, like the Battlestar Galactica ones that you showed in that video. But can't do much if you don't have the figures to go into a custom play set. So I get you, man. And so I get why you'd have to turn to Lego. I never got into Lego, and that's a vein I just can't afford to tap. I just gotta limit yourself.
I really have limited myself to just the Indiana Jones stuff from the first 3 movies. That's all I'm going to be creating probably. More than likely, the Well of Souls is now pretty much done. The expansion and modification of that.
And it looks great.
Yeah, so the only thing left really for me that I want to do with Indiana Jones is that Lego never did is the Grail Temple. I would like to do the Grail Temple myself.
I can see that.
And then after that, I have one more custom sort of punctuating piece that I'm going to do as an adjacent kind of treat for myself. I'm going to do the Atlantean pyramid ski-on chamber from the first Tomb Raider game's climax.
Yeah.
And I'll have that as like my kind of, because I do consider that game the Raiders of the Lost Ark of video games, and so like
I get it.
I'll have that.
I
as
see
well.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. So that's great. So what do we got coming up? We got tomorrow night. Tomorrow night over on
Big Al.
Big Al Presents. It is we're wrapping up James Garner June with Big Al Presents Films with Friends. Support your local gunfighter from my birth year, 1971, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, and I just dropped the link directly to it. I will be hosting the film itself off platform. The link will be provided in the chat. So if you don't have your own copy, which you absolutely should because it is a great and classic comedy western, you'll be able to watch along with us. That is tomorrow night. Sunday night is the busy night because our favorite Blue Wrench Deleted Scenes starts us out with his unscripted episode 18, Preservation Dogs. Be interesting to see what that's about. I think I already know. There's not really a big secret. That is the official lead-in to the Geeky Geezers show on Age Boomer's channel, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. There's the link to his channel, because obviously we are still putting the link, the notes together, because we try to get as up-to-date notes as we possibly can.
It's all about Grimace.
It's all, yeah, I know. That was a lot. I'm still going through all that, man. Jeez. And then late night Sunday after Geeky Geezers, go back to Deleted Scenes for The Other Side of Midnight. Then, do we have any soundtracks with Birdman sightings this week?
Not this week. He's having some health issues, so maybe just keep him in your thoughts and prayers and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But we'll,
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll be reconvening that at a later date. But you have something coming up, and then I may join you. We'll see on Wednesday, correct?
Yep, on Wednesday, Pacific 414 is going to be having myself and Netter and possibly Aged Boomer for at least part of it. I know that's your late night at work.
Yeah.
And he's been a past guest on this channel. He was here with us last year. Going to go hang out with him over there. Hopefully you stop by and do a last call raid to let him know that I'm a worthwhile guest to have, because I bring some guests with me, some fans. I'd appreciate it. Make me feel like a big shot. And then that brings us to Thursday. What's happening Thursday, Netter?
On Thursday, Netter's Network, Thursday Things, my special guest will be the Potawatomi.
The Potawatomi. We will talk about the Potawatomi Challenge. We will talk about old bubblegum and bubblegum cards, and talk about his channel, and we'll just hang out and chat for an hour, because that's kind of what we do. And don't ask me what I'm doing next week, because I just don't know. I'll figure it out sometime before then. But that's it from me. Michael, I super appreciate you hanging out with us as long as you have. I think I really take advantage of your time when I am able to get a hold of you. So I super appreciate it.
No problem.
You need to, and I'm not joking. I said this last time, and I'm going to say it again. Tell Melinda that all of us in the panel here, we appreciate her for lending you to us for as long as you have. Super appreciate it. Is there any last words you've got before we go?
No, just like I said, thank you for having me on the show as always. I love being here. And to everybody who's still holding out hope for Indy 5, please send me your contact information, because I'd love to play poker with you sometime.
There you go. Absolutely. Great point. Boomer, last words?
Oh, nothing. The Great to be on this panel as always. Definitely check out Michael's channel. He's got some great stuff
Please.
on there, like especially his backlash about why the backlash against Disney now.
Yep.
And, he did a nice tour of his premises where I got to see a Kylie Minogue as a Jedi art piece, which I thought was fascinating. So.
Yeah, I also liked his recent one where he, I think, is it a short or something, where it's who wore it better?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I didn't even realize at first that was Kylie.
Okay.
I was like, wow.
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 Sculpt on the indie figure is so bad. The Doom figure doesn't even look like he's wearing a shirt. It looks like he's wearing this bulgy pillowcase, with a deep scoop neck. It's really terrible. But yeah, there will be a part 2 and a part 3 to that studio tour coming up next week.
Cool. Yeah, you got some great stuff there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kylie, let me tell you, I got a type. Tiny, thin, blondes. Yeah, that's pretty much my type. So
I'm happy to educate you on one of the best.
I had no idea. Literally, I mean, I know you love Kylie Minogue, and I know of her. Mm-hmm. Had no idea till I saw that picture. I was like, wow, okay, now I get it.
I actually follow her music pretty avidly because.
Well, I know.
But no, I would never say she's unsightly or anything like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Boomer, and definitely subscribe to Boomer too, because when he's not here, I'm over there. So, and Netter, you want to take us out?
Of course. Well, y'all know what I always say. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well, good, and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat. You're dropping your comments, your questions, your trivia, just being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're just hanging out in the same room, enjoying each other's company, having a great time. And I've said this so many times, you guys are not just our friends. You're our family.
Yep.
We love you guys and we appreciate you being here. Because you can be anywhere right now, and you chose to be here with us. So thank you for that.
Yep. And I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate all of you that came and hung out with me just because you're friends with Michael. I hope I earned a subscription tonight, and I hope you'll come back for the next last call. If if you want to hear me sing a particular song for you, buy me a drink. The link is up at the top. I would be happy to do that. Or if you just like getting me drunk, buy me a drink. Go for it.
But only on Fridays.
But you will only ever see me drinking it on Fridays, because that's the only time Netter allows me to drink, which is probably for the best. But anyway, thanks everyone. Michael, stick with us. We'll say our goodbyes in the green room, and see y'all on the next one. Take care, everyone.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.